Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to Seattle Today. I'm Stephen Martin. I'm here with my partners Jeff Redding and Dan Droz.
Yeah.
Jeff, tell us about our very special guest today.
Today we have Mr. Regan Hagar with us.
Hi, guys.
How's it going?
Nice. Excellent.
Fact check. It might not be Regan. He might have said his stunt double.
Oh, that's right. Let's check that birth certificate.
The birth what? We don't have time for that. We're just going to have to check your birthday suit.
Okay,
Yeah.
do it.
Hi-oh.
Thanks for coming down here, Regan.
Hey, welcome. It's a pleasure to be here.
What do you think of the accoutrements?
I think
You
it looks
liking the view?
great. Steeper without people.
Yeah. If you fall, no one's going to break your fall.
Yeah. Well, and you
Right.
can also
Not
see from
today.
here the distance that Vetter jumps is actually pretty slight.
It's not,
Oh,
it's not nearly.
looks pretty rad in pictures, but actually it's just like a little fall right there, isn't it?
It's all perspective.
Yeah.
Thanks, Lance Marshall.
That looks pretty easy.
Well, especially with hands up.
Right?
No, it's
Bunch of grunge people that are used to catching.
it was the thing that happened then. It wasn't
people come here,
Oh, just
Obviously
to look in the
pre-COVID.
corner? Yeah.
to recreate
vacationers, tourists, and they would just show up on random days, and they're like, "Can we come in and see the spot?" And I'm like,
Spot.
"Yeah," and you
That's
let them
pretty
in.
random.
And because
Right.
they're all because they're mesmerized because he did the
Yeah.
PA climb and then did
Yeah.
the whole thing and then yep.
It
There
would have
it
been,
was.
It would have been a different story with this PA.
It
Well,
would
yeah.
not have worked at this PA.
Yeah, you don't want to do that with this
See, I
one.
knew
No.
Dan would
But it-
jump in on that.
But it would have been way more impressive. From
It
up-
looks like it's about 2.5 feet, right, guys?
Yeah.
just about
safe.
that. Yeah.
Those are really fun to climb, by the way. Had to do that a few times.
Oh, nice.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Regan, have you played here?
Rigor. Yes, I played here a few
yeah,
times.
I was super curious. What do you remember?
About playing here?
Yeah.
Yeah, your first one. Your
Here's a memory I have of playing at the Moor. We're playing here. I'm playing with Brad, one of my, more known. Because no one knows any of these bands. Okay, so
no, I've heard of him.
yeah, he's cool. No, I like him. He's good.
He's my favorite one.
But it was said to be a sellout, which I don't know where that came from. It was, I don't know. There's no. Anyways, I'm walking below. We're going down below. The catacombs right beneath where we're at, actually, and there were some people working here going, "This is not a sellout." I could get some people in the back. People were talking about how they could get people in these seats. And it's just like,
It was
what
probably
the hell is
Steve.
this? It was just right before the show too. It was just like, who are these people? And then my second one is Boy George downstairs. Were you here for that?
I think I was here for Boy George.
Yeah.
Did you guys?
I don't know why I was here. I didn't see the show. I was just happened to be down in the catacombs, like partying. I don't know what the fuck I was doing. And swearing's okay.
I burped.
Yes.
We
Thanks.
try not to burp on the mic.
And
Or sniff.
yeah.
and he was down there hanging out. I don't know. I guess he was having a show.
Oh, okay. He wasn't just
He came
randomly
here solo for sure.
He did.
Yeah,
it
it was
Culture
so
Club. It was Boy George, right?
right. Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, more theater is pretty cool. What do you guys think? You've seen a lot of shows here?
A lot.
I've seen a lot of shows here.
Yeah.
I remember like my first. I'm pretty sure, like in high school, my friends' cool hippie parents brought us to X.
Nice.
You ready?
Okay.
Red Hot Chili Peppers opening.
Right. Yeah.
That was like my first. That was like 85.
5? Yeah, I think
Like
so.
I was a
I remember it.
sophomore.
Wow.
Yeah, I was a sophomore or freshman. Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah.
Nice.
And
Right around there.
it's funny because my friends' parents were all excited about X, and
Right.
at the time I was too young to really understand the history and the whole thing. But they were like, "Oh my god!" And we were like, "Okay," And then I was on a steady dose of Scorpions and Def Leppard, and that's
Van Halen.
and we get here, and the audience is kind of it's this hippier, we're 16, 15, whatever I was, and the Red Hot Chili Peppers come out, and I'm just like, oh,
Sure, they smoked
there's
X.
more to rock and roll than I really.
Sign me up.
Yeah, totally. It was just
Because
like,
they tore shit up back then.
Yeah, totally.
I mean,
Oh, God,
I
they were
suppose
kids.
they probably do, but they were kids and
Yeah.
they used to tear shit up. And X on the other side of things are pretty older, kind of laid back, like
Have always
basically
been.
Right.
country,
Yeah.
you know, like
Yeah.
so. That's a weird show.
Yeah.
It was.
It's pretty cool that, I mean, I imagine X.
Yeah,
Instigated
X is the
that.
Bruce Springsteen of punk, right?
Right.
I mean, am
Yeah.
I right?
Yeah, that makes sense. The first show I saw here was the Beastie Boys, Check Your Head.
Beasties here?
Yeah.
Wow.
Beasties was good here.
Yeah.
Do you see him open for Madonna? Madonna's first show
did
ever.
not.
P Mount.
No, I didn't.
Oh, it was great. So it was Madonna's very first show ever, and Beastie Boys opened, but no, they didn't have their record out.
Right.
They had Cookie Puss or something was out, but you couldn't get it. But people vaguely knew who they were, and they ripped shit up. It was insane. And then within 6 months, they came back with their
Thing.
6-packs, you know, where the DJ was on a giant 6-pack and shit. So that stuff's all that first record.
Yeah. And where was that? Where did they play when they came back?
That's Paramount.
Still Paramount, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
both places. Both shows are both Paramount.
Open
so
for
that-
Madonna at the Paramount.
exactly. And that was, you know, so Madonna's first show ever was
Ever.
at the Paramount.
Ever.
And then it's like Motorhead's first show ever in the United States was at the Paramount.
Seriously.
I was there too.
Really?
I didn't-
What year was that?
81, 82?
Yeah.
Could have been 80. Dead Kennedy's same night, so a bunch of us Showbox guys had to work the Dead Kennedy show at the Showbox, but we couldn't miss Motorhead, so we ran up. It was Randy Rhoads playing too, and we
my
actually,
God.
I know, so
Playing with who?
Ozzy. So
Ozzy
the
and
very
Motorhead?
first Motorhead show was Ozzy at the Paramount. And that was their first show in the United States. It was the first show of the tour, obviously.
Right.
And so they landed here and started the tour, and we had to watch Motorhead and then run down to the Showbox to get everything going for Dead Kennedys, which sucked because we ran away from Randy Rhoads. Yeah, we didn't watch him.
Totally. It would have been.
Wow.
I know, it's a bummer. It's one of those things like, hey, remember that time we had that ticket? We were in
But-
the inside.
We left.
And we left.
The fact that happened in this city in the same night.
Yeah.
Right.
That is,
Yeah, yeah.
That is
Right.
mind blowing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
Right.
back then, you know, it was like, I guess it's bigger now, right? There's more
Yeah.
shit going on probably, but it's just so convoluted to me. It's like
Yeah.
homogenized, and I don't know what the hell's going on or who's who.
But also, acts don't have the same impact that they used to.
Right, because
You know?
of don't you think that back then it was basically in Seattle, we're a Yukon territory.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
back then, if there was a show or nothing, right? You're sitting
Right.
alone in the
Right.
dark, or you're at the show
Right.
because there's no internet. There's 3 channels on TV or whatever. I mean, there's probably 7 at that point. You know,
Maybe.
we started having cable. The rich kid down the street had cable, so you go
to his
there.
house.
But you're right. I mean, back then, geez, I mean, everybody showed up to everything. Kind of, you could
Right.
be pretty bad and get a full house in
I
Seattle.
mean, there were just, if it's possible to understand, there were fewer bands.
yeah, much fewer
So it was just like, now it's like,
scenes. Right? There's a ton of
yeah.
scenes going at the same
yeah,
time.
endless.
And an artist a second.
Yeah.
Right.
Laptop
Right.
artists, DJs, what have you.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, Motorhead's not opening.
Motorhead, man,
Yeah,
so
that's
cool.
crazy.
Randy Rhoads.
Seriously.
Had to walk away, guys. Had to do it.
Well,
and here's the thing: is Dead Kennedys weren't my jam in particular. Right? Everyone loves them. I get it, but I personally don't care for
Right.
Jello. So Jello alone talking turned me off to them. And I have some of their records when I was a kid. Started being into it until I heard him kind of rail off on something. He turned me off for whatever personal reason, and so I was like, "Fuck, I have to go do this show," because it was just a work thing to me.
Right.
And I loved Sabbath, so I was ready to
Right.
see Ozzy for sure. I was.
Was that Blizzard of Oz?
It was the first, yes, first and only tour, right, for that stuff.
For Randy?
Yeah, I don't know. I think.
I don't know. Well, didn't he die before
Yeah.
that tour ended?
Yeah, I mean,
That was the
He got replaced by not really replaced, but
well, Ozzy was going to bag it for a while. He was so devastated, right? And then he met Zach.
Was Zach the next guy?
As far as I know, but like I said,
next full timer.
Fact check.
Yeah, check that out. Somebody Google it. Should Google that shit.
Because I think when Randy did have the accident, I believe, and I can't remember his name. I'm not joking. They brought in like the guy from Night Ranger
Did they?
to finish the.
To finish the tour, yeah.
Yeah.
That's probably Night Ranger is all session shredders, aren't they?
Right.
Yeah. So
I mean,
they're
I get it. You hear Night Ranger, and you're like,
pocket guys.
but they were session guys.
I think they were.
right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Danny digging that up.
I'm taking notes.
Yeah. Should Google.
Yeah, I think that means no.
Right.
Um.
We were talking earlier. I
Yeah.
wanted to revisit the. You worked at the Showbox. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I did. Why are these hidden? The other ones are out. They're special because they're glass. No glass on deck.
No.
You can have glass on. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
There's a new rule in town: stage glass.
They're out at the. They're in the stage bay over there. You want to
there?
grab?
Yeah,
You wanna
yeah.
grab those?
Yep.
All right.
Where is it? I shouldn't go.
No, you have to talk.
And okay, here's another question. Speaking of having a beverage here,
Yeah.
so do you? I'm older. I'm 55. You guys are much younger, right?
Not much.
So if we start drinking beer, the bathroom I know about is pretty far, except for going up into the back.
Right there.
Oh, there's one right here.
Right there on the
There's
first
one
floor.
about
Yeah,
20
perfect.
paces from you.
That's the way it should be on a stage, and I should know that.
and
but,
there's
you
one.
know.
There's a place you can sit down if it's an emergency.
Okay, yeah, I'm good. I just
No, it's important.
once you break the seal,
Yeah.
it just starts flowing like it goes in one end.
It's a cake party.
Enough of that.
Yeah. We were talking about you
Thanks.
worked at the Showbox.
Yeah, I worked at the Showbox. Thank
But
you,
how
sir.
did you, at age 13? Oh, that's
I think I was 13 or 14, and I should know the difference, but
no,
it's interesting. That was all. It was this transitional period for me, obviously moving from Seattle to Bainbridge.
And how old were you when you moved to Bainbridge?
It was in 1979.
And did you grow?
So I was 13.
Did you grow up in Seattle until then?
Yes, Ravenna.
Ravenna. Okay.
Yep.
And then you moved to Bainbridge, and
It,
you moved to Bainbridge. Why?
Why? A single parent. She had 2 kids. I had an older brother. We were robbed 3 days in a row in Seattle. I had gotten into a little bit of trouble with the authorities and gone through some juvenile detention stuff. I avoided it. I didn't get detained, luckily. But my mom had this thought that the city was bad and that I was, because being a latch kid, because just out of necessity, maybe she should move to the country where I won't get into any trouble.
Right.
And we won't be robbed. Well, so she found a place on Bainbridge, which I didn't even know that she was looking. So this is part of my reaction, was a little bit being upset that my older brother and my mom had kind of gone and like looked at houses and shit. They actually didn't include me in that process. So I thought that was wild. And next thing I know, I'm moving there, right? And I was like, what? And my brother's like, yeah, but I'm not. I'm going to move in with my dad, which we didn't have we were sort of estranged. I mean, again, no issues, but he had a new family with 2 other new sons, right?
Right.
And my brother was older and he was in high school and he wanted to finish high school in Seattle. He went to Roosevelt and he was right in there with like the Duff crew. He's in that. I was going to ask Duff about the VRA, the View Ridge Anarchists, like if he knew that group of people from Roosevelt at that time. I'm sure that they did because
Right.
I think Duff's probably around his age. But anyways,
So you get over there, and you're 13.
I get over there.
You're
I'm
not happy about
13.
it.
My brother's not there. My mom's not there. I'm sitting like in the woods. And it's super cool to me now. I would love to do it now, but at 13 I was not into it at all. So
Right.
I just basically figured out how to get back to the city. I was a couple
You're in the
miles.
woods.
Yeah, I'm in the woods. I'm a couple miles from the boat. I'll walk that shit, which I did.
Sure.
And I would take the boat and well, let's back it up. Okay. I met a kid in the hall who was going to the Showbox. His name's Rob Alexander. Amazing guy from Bainbridge. And he's like, I'm going to go into the show. You want to go with me? I'm like, yeah. You're going on the boat? Let's go. And so we go to some Showbox show. I should know what it is. I don't know what it was. It was all local bands. And a guy approached the two of us and said, "Do you guys want to put up these flyers?" He had 1117s were really big then. "Put up these flyers. I'll let you into next week's show for free." Give me the stapler, right?
Sure.
So I'm in. And then that next weekend, we're back, and it was like, "Hey, can you help? We had a tear ticket." Like all of a sudden, it was like, "Okay, you guys, I want you to do this and that," and I fucking loved it, and my friend didn't. So he ended up going, "Fuck that!" Right? They're not offering us anything but access,
Right.
no money or anything. So Rob takes off. I end up hanging out, and it's there's essentially, when you come up the curve of the showbox, the office to the left used to be kind of a hangout for younger people, kind of punk scene guys that were working the same for Modern Enterprises, which was Mike Vraney and God damn it. Anyways,
Wow.
yeah,
Punch
check
that
that
in.
out. So Modern Enterprises, and I find that it's always open essentially. So if I come off the boat, which is right there by the showbox, I have a place to just kind of drop in and hang out. So I'm cutting class. I'm like doing my own thing. I'm that's my new hang, and these are my new friends, and I become real fast friends with Blaine in particular. Paul Soldier, I don't know, you know who that is.
Yeah.
He was in a band called Soldier, and he was one of the first ones to reach out, and I could sleep with him at his parents' house.
So you met him at the showbox?
Yeah, these are all guys that work at the showbox. There was a band called Soldier that was
So Soldier
a bunch
was
of
before 10 Minute Warning?
way before 10 Minute Warning.
Okay.
So way before the
Okay.
farts.
Right.
So
had no
we're in
idea.
Soldier. Soldier's basically a house band, and
Yeah.
there's gear in the back above the loading dock. There's a room that's full of AV shit now, but it used to be another space that people had some equipment in, could jam. Like up front in that office, there was a turntable, a bunch of records, a place to just hang out, smoke clove cigarettes, and spike your hair and stuff. And so
I remember cloves. I totally
cloves were a big
remember
thing back
cloves.
then. Jar 'em.
Oh, Jesus.
So I
sickest
used to
I've
smoke
ever
those
been.
on the boat just because people hated them.
Oh, because-
Okay, so the smoking on the boat used to be
shouldn't
in
do
the
it.
middle. Do you
Close.
remember that?
Right.
First of all, everyone hated me there
Well,
because I was like
that they
punk.
were expensive.
Yeah,
So I was like,
yeah, that's true. But if you're a fancy lad,
right.
you smoke them.
There you go.
Yeah.
So anyhow,
And then you were talking about how you were working there while you were still going to high school, and
Yeah.
some guys from your high school.
yeah. So that's how I met the Malfunction guys. Which is just Andy. Kevin had already graduated, but I'm walking up to a Devo show that was at the Showbox, and I don't know, a long time ago, and those guys were in line. There was an actual substantial line for that show, which we didn't always have, but people are sitting on the ground back in the way that people used to wait for concerts in a line down the street. And the next day, he approached me in the hall and said, "I saw you, and I saw you just walk in, to the showbox. How'd you do that?" And I was like, "Well, I worked there. That's my friends."
What grade is this?
Yeah,
Like
what a great show it was,
eighth
right?
grade?
I think I was probably in 8th grade. It depends on the months. It was like I moved there halfway through 8th grade. So within that first 6-month period, a lot changed, right? We had a summer, and we had high school starting. They're right next together. So nothing really changed. You just switch rooms. I mean, it is physically a different building, but it's really not.
The
It's on the
campuses are
same
next to each other.
Exactly.
Right.
So I do get cloudy with that, but yeah. So he was definitely in 8th grade at the most because I'm a grade above him.
Okay.
So I do. I had to wait for him to come catch up to the high school, but yeah, he just asked me about how I did it, and I told him that's my jam, and then he was like, "I have a band. Do you want to try out?" And I was like, "Yeah, let's do it." And I met Kevin later, and they were just something to do on the island, so I said yes.
That's just crazy. 9th grade.
I got to tell you too. Listening to you tell your stories about how you grew up in this town,
Yeah.
and it just I'm only 2 to 3 years younger than you. I just remember growing up in Kirkland in this very kind of sugary sweet kind of
It's fancy town.
just sugary sweet Kirkland world. And there was this one guy, I've not seen him in a million years. His name was Jeff Woods. I'm assuming it's still Jeff Woods. And he was the only legitimate punk rocker in Kirkland.
Yeah.
Right.
And he just first we took to each other. We became friends. And he was like, "Hey man, there's more, Steve, like I said, there's more than Scorpions and Def Leppard." And he would take me into the opposite than you. We would take the bus in.
Right.
And we would go to these shows.
Def
and I
Leppard,
just
that's
remember
late.
being like,
What's that?
That's late in the game, Def Leppard.
right, I know. I'm like, and I just, but we would go to these shows. Here, I'll throw a name out for you that you'll remember. Gorilla Gardens.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and we would
So
go to
many
all
good
these
shows.
shows, and I was just I became obsessed with Seattle. Like
Right.
I can't graduate from high school fast enough. I can't move
Right.
to Seattle. I can't get here fast enough. I can't move here fast enough. But just like you, being able to go to the showbox when you get off the bus, maybe even if it's 6 a.m, but you could go there and to the city that the kids today can't do what we did.
Oh, totally. They can't.
They can't even come close.
No, you can't get
to-
access to buildings and stuff because
Right.
everything's
and
so
the
expensive.
venues would never. You know, what I'm
everything
saying.
was run by kids. You're right. I mean, and when I say kids, Modern Enterprises, those guys were in their young 20s, and here I am at 14 or whatever. Going,
Right.
Oh, you guys are cool, man. What can I
Going
do to
past
help?
2 and loading out past 2 in the morning, doing whatever.
Well, and that's
on
the thing.
on.
For a while, I had to catch the 210 boat. That was the last one to Bainbridge, and it just depended on the day. I could be crashing in town or not. But I there's times that it really kick myself. People partying with Iggy Pop after Iggy show, and I have to leave. And James Brown, they had rented the showbox, and he did a back-to-back, so he did a 7 and a 10. And the 7 went, and it was amazing, right? We brought in chairs. It was totally different than our regular. We did other things to try and keep the place going, so there were strange events that were outside of the norm of Modern Enterprises. This was one of them. And it was a double night of James Brown, and we saw the whole set, right? And then we cleaned it all out, and then we bring in a whole new set of people, and we're gonna do a second show. So we go through that whole set, and then he starts doing the cape and the falling down, and that literally went on, and I left because I had to catch the 210. And he was still doing it, like songs and falling and getting up. And at least double the length of that second show, which I was
Right.
like, wow, whoever came to the first show is a sucker.
Right.
If you know James Brown, you better, because I didn't know better at that time.
The
I was
first
just
show they were getting their
tripping.
groove on.
But I had to leave. There was these times where I'm like, wow, I'm still, I'm a kid. I'm still
Beholden to.
essentially going home. And I did, make my way through school and all that stuff. But
That's impressive. So you graduated?
no.
No.
But
So you kick yourself even more for having.
But I later went to community college to make it up and all that stuff. I think it was a punishment to me. I remember in high school over there being teased even by teachers and staff and stuff. Like you were saying, there's only one punk rocker or whatever. I was
Yep,
a
there was
punk
that
rocker.
one.
There were a couple girls that were new wave, and the school once took the picture, asked if the three of us would stand together, take our picture, and they did this thing about how we're freaks and stuff. And but at the time, shit, I lost my main point. Tell me, back
It's
it
okay.
up.
Just that they were making fun of you. There was only one punk rocker.
Yeah,
No.
I don't know. The staff. It was something about school, but whatever.
Oh, it was a punishment to you.
Oh yeah, I do think that there was a conflict between them and I on a personal level, and they had this 16 date. You could have 16 absences before you failed a class.
Right.
So I would 16
Right.
everything, and then I would negotiate and stuff, and I did 16 out a couple of times.
Right.
And then as soon as I was out of that program, they moved it back into 3 days. So you can only have 3.
Okay, so my freshman year in high school, 1982-83,
Yeah.
you could have 10 unexcused absences. Mm-hmm. My sophomore year, you could have 1.
Right? Yeah, it was this big switch. I made it under that
There's a big
16 thing.
switch there.
You could have 10. You could have 16.
I could have 16 back then, so I'm a class of 83.
You could
It was
skip.
the island.
That means
It is island
It
stuff.
was the island,
that
right?
means every class you could have 10 unexcused absences per quarter. Just not
It's
show up.
insane. It's really ridiculous. But
It's
then
another
again,
thing that
the
kids
curriculum
can completely not relate to
curriculum,
today.
I believe, was definitely harder than what I saw.
Oh, you think?
I do think so. I think
Then?
it's consistently gotten weaker.
Oh, interesting.
It looks that way to me.
Yeah.
And having my kids go through the system here too. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, in my opinion, if you look at like go back into the 50s and look at high school requirements, it's like, wow, those guys
Right.
had a lot more expected of them.
Yeah.
I
That
sometimes
sounds like an old guy thing to say.
I
but-
sometimes no, I can relate with you to a certain degree because especially recently with the COVID and helping my daughter with her Zoom classes and on and on and
Must
on
be
and on.
difficult.
I remember we
Jesus.
had to we got letter grades. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And you had kind of a better idea of how good or bad you were doing. And where else was I going to go with this? We had to learn how to print and write cursive. Remember
I know
cursive?
they don't do cursive anymore, right?
That's-
they don't.
I feel
it-
like I was the last generation to
cursive?
get cursive.
You were the last generation to get
I
cursive.
think I was the last.
Right. I
generation.
also too. I mean, maybe you guys have this. I have vague memories.
Bring the whole bag in here. It's
I have-
go outside the door.
I have vague memories of the metric system.
Well, there was. we were supposed to.
Yeah,
we were gonna
everybody had
change.
to study that.
I thought,
no, but we were gonna
based on
change-
tens, and I thought,
We were gonna in the 70s. They were gonna switch entirely. The Carter administration.
Yeah, so I was with my wife in Iceland. I had been there working with Neil, as I had mentioned to you earlier. I did a big stint with Neil Young, and I had been introduced to Iceland, which I fell in love with, and then spoke about it with my wife, and then decided that I'm going to make this big trip with her. Planned a trip that went across Norway and one end to the other, and then over to Iceland. So in Iceland, the horses are different, right?
It's
they're
completely different.
They're fucking awesome, right?
Yeah.
And my wife is enamored with these beautiful creatures.
How are they different?
They're a completely different breed, so they're called a certain thing. I don't know.
I can look it up.
Yeah. Bing. So Icelandic horses are fucking badass.
Yeah.
And when we went to do the riding, they're just like, who knows how to ride, who doesn't? I always go on the how to ride side, which I officially don't, but I've been doing it with these like girls and stuff since high school. And if you say yes, they give you the good horses. I don't know if you knew that.
right. The
Makes sense.
faster, stronger
Anything.
horses.
Yeah, always
Yeah.
say, do you know how to ride? Just raise your hand. Even if you don't,
Yeah.
you get a better horse.
There you go.
But those, did you find, are you fact finding?
So there are like there are 3 Icelandic names. The one I think I can pronounce is Islandsfjord.
Yeah. It's such a beautiful language too.
Oh, yeah.
So you've been there, right?
I've been there 5 times.
Oh my God. So you
Yeah.
get it.
Yeah.
It's like when people, if you listen to Sigur Rós, and people are like, I don't get it, it's like, but if you go to Iceland and listen to Sigur Rós,
You'll
you're
get
like,
it.
it's so
Well,
fucking perfect.
It's not just Sigur Rós, it's every artist.
You're right.
Every Icelandic artist
So,
suddenly makes sense
quick
when you're
note,
there.
You're right. It is definitely a place to go.
Oh, yeah.
I
Tie into
suggest it.
Sigur Rós. Sigur Rós did a show here, of course. And guess
Amazing.
what? Every girl in the house was. First of all, you couldn't put another person in the building. It was slammed.
Unlike Brad concert.
Every girl in the building was crying.
Wow.
Crying.
The entire. Yeah, they started playing.
We get criers
And
too.
the girl. Oh God. Did you get criers?
Oh yeah, no, it's a big Brad thing. It's a
Right,
big,
it's a big Brad thing. Oh, right,
guaranteed any show for sure, 100%.
You know, dude, I want to hear a cool Neil Young story.
I would say what I really was his valet. So Eric Johnson is a old Seattle friend, and he started working with him through Pearl Jam. Everything kind of runs through that.
For people that don't know, what does Eric Johnson do?
So Eric Johnson is a tour manager. So he started. He was a kid around here that we all partied with, and when Soundgarden was first starting to try and go outside of the city. Actually, remember those Total Fucking Godhead shirts? Eric made those. So
Okay.
he started making screen prints for Soundgarden and giving them, like, helping them van around to gigs. And he fell into this tour manager position. And he was with them for a long time. And through that experience, when Pearl Jam elevated, he went with them, which was great because all of a sudden it's huge. And it was meaningful in the sense that Eric Johnson has so many letters of recommendation from city governments and police forces and shit. Like, this guy literally helps shape how you deal with kids coming over the barrier, how barriers in general,
Right.
like safety at a show where kids want to mosh, right?
Yeah.
Eric Johnson's a big player in that stuff. If you go back, anyways,
Right.
I have a lot of respect for him, and
it's a big deal because of the liability prevention factor.
oh
You know,
yeah,
like
I mean, this is a
you know,
big deal.
You save the kids and you prevent stress.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And you protect the artists, you keep everything flowing, you keep everybody happy. It doesn't
Yep.
have to be a conflict between security and
Yep.
audience, which he was a big proponent of, and he would have meetings with security, absolutely forbidding any kind of bully mentality coming
Yep.
from security.
Coming
is
from
totally
security,
yeah,
right.
it's totally not accepted. And I, as a designer, laid out this Pearl Jam 20-year book. So I poured over. It took me ages, but I poured over so many documents that they gave me access to put that book together. That I found all these things from literally sheriffs, mayors, all these letters specifically about Eric Johnson,
That's
because they kept. I guess Pearl Jam started doing their own thing. Remember when they fought Ticketmaster or whatever?
Right.
So they were making up their own rules and working with local governments. And anyways,
He was.
Eric Johnson.
Yeah.
We're back on track. So I, at one point, I'm kind of I wear many hats in order to survive.
Sure.
I'm a musician. I'm a designer. I'm a father. I'm a landscaper. So
For hire?
I will, yes, I actually now will do. I don't want to maintain anything, but I will tear out your existing and put in something
Design?
beautiful if you pay me out.
Really?
Yeah,
Right.
you should see this one I just did in Lake City. It is fucking gorgeous.
We will put up pictures on the website if you want.
Oh yeah, because the Lake City one I did, there's some kind of stream going under there. Because I'm like I'm used to 25% kind of die off when you do a massive planting if you really install a full yard, and everything took. I was just like, what is going on?
See the
Oh
north
man,
end,
I
Steve?
need your help. I need your help so bad at my
Steve's
spot.
got a stream.
Oh man, you
nice
got
one.
a
nice
wet
one.
kind of
I
area.
got
You can
what
do
we
so
know
much.
I got what we know as Swamp Creek.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
running through my back. That is the county name. Running through my backyard. Yeah.
I'm in.
I need your help. I need,
well, you talk
I
to
need
me
your
for sure.
vision.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes I have helped other friends where I'll lay out.
You can tell them how to do it.
Yeah, I can give you a staged out thing where you can do. I'm always a proponent
What
of
I-
you doing as much of it as possible.
Right. What I want to do
it's
now
what.
is I'm gonna put a little peer pressure on you,
Okay.
and I think we should bring you back and do a show at my place,
Yeah.
and you can see my
Hands-on.
place and just it'll be awesome.
I had put in this barrier around a boulder that was a centerpiece in this yard, and the owners sent the picture of it to the shop that sells the barriers, and I keep seeing it on Facebook now. It's like an ad. I'm like, God damn it, that's my yard. And they just keep showing it. I felt good about it.
That's awesome. You might want to get a release next time.
Well, but again, I digress. Where were we going?
I wanted to hear about how you
Eric
got
Johnson.
into doing the.
Oh, okay, so in one of these things I was doing, a friend of mine, he's now we're estranged, unfortunately, but this guy, maybe we're estranged because of this, but he had started doing a mobile wood-fired pizza business, which was super cool. This is a ways back, so Seattle's got a lot of wood-fired pizzas now. Sure. This guy was doing it pretty early on, and it's delicious. I have to say his pizza's delicious. So I'm, hanging out with him, making pies. We're going to events, weddings, like open houses, fairs.
I'm sorry. Quick question.
Yeah.
You're making pies?
Yeah, pizza.
Pizza.
Oh, pizza. Oh, pizza
Wood-fired
pie.
oven.
Got it.
Pizzas.
Okay, got it.
little
All right, sorry.
little
Go
wood-fired
ahead,
pizzas, so
sorry.
the thin
Yeah,
crust,
delicious. The pizza
very
pie.
yeah,
Authentic.
but true Italian style. I don't make any kind of pie. Come on.
Not just any kind of pie.
No, I'm just. So, anyways,
Pizza pie.
we're actually on Hood Canal. There's some kind of outdoor weekend event where we're crashing at a motel and making pies all day at this fair, and we're hanging out, throwing shells into the water at Hood Canal. It's gorgeous. After shift, right? And he used to do this thing with Eric Johnson. He would tour. He was this job I ended up having. And I didn't know much about it. He never really... I knew him. I had hired him to work with Satchel, another band I was touring in, and he had worked with us one tour. It was only one tour he was on. We ended up, again, that didn't work out because I knew him. He wasn't willing to actually work. If you ever tour with guys that didn't want to work.
Yeah.
So friends sometimes come out and don't actually want to work. But he had worked with Hart. He'd worked with some big acts, and he'd worked with Neil. Anyways, we're skipping rocks, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna quit my job with Neil Young. I'm done with it. You know what? I'm gonna take care of my life. I'm gonna do this pizza thing. Fuck it, And I was like, "Good for you, man."
Do that thing.
I was like, "I think this is delicious," and I really did. I was like all in, and I literally went. And when I was laying down to sleep, I thought about it. I was like, "What the fuck's Eric gonna do?"
I'm going to take that job with
No,
you.
I literally just called Eric on the phone the next day, and I was like, "Hey, Carrie says he quit his job with you." And he was like, "Yeah." And I'm going to Europe in 2 weeks, and I'm between a rock and a hard place.
I've got good news.
I said, "Hey, guess what? I'll go." I mean, no, it's just
What?
1 month in Europe. Yeah, with Neil, I'll go.
What? You will?
And he was, and
What's
he's,
the catch?
well, he's like, "No, because you're a musician, you don't know how to, we have to you have to kiss some ass. You know what I mean? We're servants."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Dude, trust."
Don't.
I
Just don't. You're a
because
drummer. Of course
I
you're
am
a
such a
servant.
I'm a little bitch. I don't know if you know that about me, but I'm a fancy lad in the recesses. And what that means is, I know how to be picky for people. I know, this is a good thing, this is a bad thing.
Right.
So I say, no, I know how to serve. And as a matter of fact, I just renewed my passport. I have a brand new one.
Very important.
And he was like, "Okay, let me think about it." I knew there was a couple other people there that he was thinking about. And I don't know why, but he called me back and said, "Okay, let's try it out." And that month was no month. It literally didn't stop for 2 years. Like that particular tour, Neil called the Earth Tour, and it just went on and on and on and on and on. And I don't know, 32 countries or something. And
Brilliant.
for me, it was like, whoa, shit, this is a good gig.
Sure.
I had been around a lot of these larger performers. I'd not had that kind of experience directly myself. Here I am. We're in all the places you want to be. The hotels, the food, everything's nice. Really good level. And Eric is busy as shit doing it, right? And Neil's very demanding because he's a bit of a Willy Wonka. He's got a bunch of side shit going on all the time, and he wants you to service that. So that's why I say I became his valet. I did all the paperwork for all of his contracts in and out all the time. I want to be an artist, not an artist, but he wanted to somehow write a book about his cars. And I'm giving you a for instance. He wants to write a book about his cars. He's talking to us about it. So I say, okay, and I go and I get pastels, I get pens, I get watercolor, I get a few different mediums, and just here, mess around with this stuff. Okay, I like this. I end up having to. He gives me a list. He's like, "Now get me a photograph of all. These are all. Here's a list of every car I ever owned. Go get me a photo of them." I'm like, "Okay,
Sure, I can do that.
and I did. And it actually took months. I got it. It was 100 some odd cars, and I got it down to the last kind of 12. And I said, "Neil, I can't. I'm having a hard time with these particular models, these particular cars." He had a lot of weird one-offs and stuff, the Eldorado
oddity
Biarritz
type, right.
52, like the Biarritz is has the it's a convertible with a
They made 10
Yeah,
in
exactly.
1962.
And
Right.
Canada.
So, at one point, I remember he was like, "Oh, well, like I got those at the ranch. Why don't you go to the ranch and take pictures?" I was like, "Are you?"
Jesus
I'd been
Christ.
searching. I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" Because I would have to go to the ranch on and off. I was, obviously I have to go to the ranch because it's where he lives, and I super don't like to. Like, I don't know if you ever heard of the ranch.
No.
It's big and it's really, really hard to get to. So when you drive there, you go on a harrowing expedition and like with cliffs. And okay, you were coming around this one turn and there are literally like cow skulls on the road. Wherever there's skulls, it means, okay, really pay attention right here. You're going to
Right.
die. And you go and you go and you go and you finally get there. And then of course it's like, the pictures of wherever he records records there, and there's the barn, and there's all this stuff.
Outstanding.
I know, but it sounds weird, but I would really avoid going to the ranch at all possible because it was so scary, and I had to go out there to take pictures.
At least you got.
I know. I was like,
You
there
got
they
them all.
are.
Yeah.
You got them.
I don't know the name of that book, but he's got.
I
Some
love how
book
you
out.
were like, I love how you go to him and go, hey, I've gotten the first 88 or whatever, but
Right.
I'm working on these last 10 to 12. He's like, oh, just, take the scary road to the ranch.
right. Well,
And everything's good. So was there a Carrie Eklund
Kerry Eklund is
involved
the,
in your
he's
Neil Young process?
Yeah, he was the guy. He was the pizza guy.
Because I was going to say
He's the pizza man.
he went to my friend's place in Mexico, Airstream City.
Yeah.
And helped refurbish a Dutch oven, brick oven.
Oh, for them to make
I'll
pizza.
try to pull up some photos before you take off tonight to show you.
Yeah, that's
Because Carrie's big into the pizza game, and I know that he was doing the Neil Young thing with you as well.
exactly. So he and I never worked together with Neil because I was in the same position. Even though things did change for me, I know he was more of a side person to
Right.
Eric, and. When things kind of changed, Eric was like, holy crap, you guys are actually two completely different people doing two different things. But back then, because I would be like, God, I wish I'd have a beer. Like we'd literally finally get done at 2 or 3 in the morning in some random hotel and be like, I wish I had a beer. And he's like, man, Kerry, he always had beer on ice when we got here. Like he called ahead. Like you're blowing it. You don't know how to do this.
Oh,
I'm like, okay, I got to learn those things.
damn! Didn't know I had that power.
Well, that's just it. I didn't know. I'm frugal by nature, so
Right.
the management loves me, but
Right.
in general, I don't. I could have flexed a lot more, I guess.
Yeah, you were speaking for the man.
You've been out there, so you're touring with Duff. Is it
I did.
Kush? Pretty nice, right?
There were some pretty nice ones.
I
Japan,
mean, he's got a standard, right?
Japan was really nice.
I mean, I like that standard's awfully nice to touch on if you get an opportunity to.
Yeah, it's better than the alternative. I've done Japan with him, and I've done it with a punk rock band.
Well, and that's just it. I mean, I love the punk band stuff, which I've done tons of too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's that to Jets. I like the Jets, but I'll do the van.
Well, and it's really nice to be able to have both.
Yes.
But it would be horrible to just have the van
Well,
when you're 50.
Yes, and exactly. As we get old, we have needs as far as comfort, but
Creature comfort needs.
ultimately, it's really about the fun. So I don't care
Right.
what we're in. If the band is right, like The Deception, for instance, is so fun. We
Yeah.
do some really weird, crappy stuff, and it's a blast.
Yeah, and you guys always look like you're having
Here's
fun.
real fast. This is the photo. That's the oven that Carrie refurbished with my buddy at Airstream City.
And he owns a few of those.
And
At his shop. Have you been to his
No, I've not
restaurant?
been to his shop.
It's got his
see.
name in the
Right.
stuff on the front.
When my friend bought that lot, so he gets the 99-year leases that you get in Mexico.
Right.
He started with one. It was disgusting. He made it beautiful. He kept adding. Adding. It's a vacation destination when COVID's not here.
Right.
Called Airstream City. He hired Carrie to go down and refer. And when
Carrie's
he bought
good at
he
finding that
showed me.
stuff. That's
So I
amazing.
was there hanging out, having fun. I was just there having
Right.
fun because his hospitality is huge.
Yeah.
And he showed me the property, and I'm like, don't. because he was telling me his grand plans, and I'm going to demo this house and
Right.
this and that. I'm like, save that oven.
Right.
Save that oven. There's who knows how many are left. That's probably original.
Right.
And he had. I'm super. And then so wow, man. It's
Yeah.
a small world here.
It is a small world, and that's
It
the thing
is.
is Seattle was, and that's it. Carrie toured with me. I don't know. We all know each other, right? I mean,
Seattle's small.
Seattle,
Very small.
very
It's-
small,
Seattle's
especially if you
small.
go
It's-
back.
It's taller. It's taller than it is wider,
Yeah.
if you will.
It's much
Yeah.
taller now.
Yeah, right.
And
Oh,
that's just
God.
it. There's all the complainers have arrived. I don't know if all the Seattle's dying thing. I'm like, wow, you guys should have seen what it was like in the 80s.
No, that's what I was. We were talking about that a
Nothing
half hour ago.
Yeah, it's like
when we were kids.
Things were so stabby
when
here.
we were kids coming into the city. Coming into the city was easy.
Right.
I remember
This right where we are right now. This is all prostitution,
Yeah. Oh, God,
peep
it was
shows,
every
pawn
bar.
shops.
I lived on First Avenue.
It's fancy now, people.
I lived on First Avenue. I had a view of the Sound.
yeah.
I was a bike courier.
Every
Right.
bar.
I love
I was a bike. Remember Minis? I
dude.
lived in the Minis building.
That's great.
On First and Mercer, and I could pay my rent as a bike courier, and there were no skyscrapers, and I had a view. I could see the ferries coming and
Right?
going.
Amazing.
And
Every
like,
bar.
and this, and
Every
like,
bar.
what-
Oh, go ahead.
the city's
Sunsets,
gone.
too.
Just
Yeah,
that Seattle's gone. The
Yeah.
Seattle that we grew up in is gone.
Absolutely.
You know, it's just
and
like,
that's okay.
Yeah,
it's okay.
fine. But every bar was a bum bar.
Yes.
There were no the red
A lot
door.
of them were.
The red door. When
Frontier
it was on the
room?
corner, used
Yeah.
to. I was scared to go in there.
The
The first time
Rendezvous.
I went in there.
Gibson
Rendezvous
House. You want to
was-
go in there for a drink? No, not really.
The rendezvous.
Remember the rendezvous?
Yeah, the
was
Rendezvous was-
that was where it was disgusting.
the
Yeah.
bathroom in there.
It was like,
Hey, you guys, your very own one here. Come on.
what's that?
The
the
more.
nightlight?
Yeah, the
Oh.
nightlight.
Oh,
Come
God,
on.
Yeah,
God bless
rest
the
in
night.
peace.
I know,
Rest
isn't
in
it the
peace.
greatest? I
Oh,
mean, how
are you
cool is
kidding
it?
me?
But believe
oh, my
me, it
God.
had its regulars from the street.
Oh my God, the night. Oh God,
Right?
Love that
God
place.
bless. Oh, couldn't.
Well, and
Best
Gibson was
place
right
in the city.
right across the street here,
Right,
right?
right,
The
yeah.
Gibson House.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
The Gibson. Remember,
you're not going in there.
what was it? What were they? Long Island. They would do Long Island iced teas in those.
The thing was their food, like, so they had some kind of like buffet or whatever. It was gnarly. That's all right.
crazy. Yeah,
I like
it's
it.
fine.
But Seattle's dying now with its skyscrapers and fancy shopping everywhere. Ballard, blue collar, literally was a blue collar.
Yeah, it's a bunch of Vikings.
It is not anymore.
No.
It is. I
You
live.
can't afford to live there.
I am fancy. Oh
Yeah.
my God, I could never buy a house in my neighborhood.
Yeah, no, it couldn't happen. Yeah, you're saying kind of stabby. It's like, when you think Seattle's dying, when was the last time a good serial killer came from Seattle?
Right? Come on, that stuff's over now.
I mean, they were all from here.
Totally.
They all spent time
And
here.
I love to call it a Yukon territory because it gives people a picture of what that might be like. I mean, 9 o'clock, lights out, right?
Seriously.
And a group of kids could rent a building somewhere,
Yeah.
right, and
Yeah.
throw a show.
Yeah. It never
Try it
happened.
now.
They, I used to describe it as like the last stop before you were forced to go to Alaska.
Exactly, and that's the thing is we were the outfitter. We literally got everyone ready
To go fishing.
to go do their
to go
Alaska
gold or
thing.
whatever,
Yep,
yeah.
yeah, exactly.
like
Salmon,
here in
gold.
There's a
Yeah.
spot in Seattle where you guys would.
No, that's what Seattle used to be.
It just was a
Oh, right,
jumping
right.
off point
Yeah.
for gold digging and,
Right.
and salmon catching. And,
Right, you were
yeah.
on your way to Alaska.
Oh, you were talking about yards. I live in Ballard. Salmon Bay is
Okay.
my area.
Oh, is it?
Which sounds badass, really, if you think about it. Salmon Bay. I mean,
Yeah.
what's in the water? Salmon. Not really anymore.
Right.
But
Right.
but it's so sandy. I have a hard time. Certain things just won't grow there, and I can basically turn a hose on in my yard, and it'll
Just suck
it'll
in.
never bog out.
Yeah.
It just keeps. I think I live on a beach.
Yeah.
At one time, it was a beach or something.
Right.
Yeah. I like Seattle, but
I
it's
love
not what it was. But you know what is? Tacoma.
Tacoma looks just like Seattle in 1980, doesn't it?
Totally does.
I've been tempted to go there. The Deception's been playing down there and stuff, and it's like, oh wow, look at this. Maybe we could get a big old warehouse here.
Could, yeah. And there's still crappy industrial places, and there's still
Right.
bars that haven't been turned over by the hipsters. And,
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
and turned over by the
And even speaking to that hipster stuff, there's a lot of cool like record stores and
Down there, yeah.
like boutique shops, and
It's
coffee
starting.
shops.
It's
Isn't
starting
it?
to change.
Yeah,
so-
because there's people
As in-
from here
as
moving
in
there,
it's
you
turning
think?
into-
yeah, totally.
When you
Yeah,
say it's
artists
starting to
need that.
change, do you feel like it's turning into Seattle, like just a
It's
little
just getting
mini
expensive,
Seattle?
like the spill off. So when I moved back from California, we bought a house there instead because it was just like that was
In Tacoma?
2007 until
really?
2005 until 2012. We lived there.
Wow, nice.
And it was there's parking everywhere.
Yeah.
right.
There's good, there's good restaurants. There's everything you want, but it's starting. Like some of the clubs are getting squeezed out for insurance purposes, and
Because I know they're selling like hotcakes down there, so it's already
there's definitely
started.
like some fancy. Is that what you call it?
yeah.
Fancy lad stuff.
Fancy lad stuff's happening.
Yeah.
Boutique.
Boutique.
Ballard's Boutique.
Ballard.
Oh,
yeah.
big time.
Ballard's.
No longer blue collar.
No.
I got a picture of a buddy of mine that I crab fished with, and they used to sell these shirts.
Did you used to do that in high school or out
right
of high
after
school?
high school? Yeah.
I went to school with a lot of people who did that.
Yeah. It was a
Crab and otherwise, whatever. Yeah.
a little short-sighted actually. But they had these ironic T-shirts that say London, Paris, Rome, Ballard.
Nice.
Because
I think I've seen those.
Now it wouldn't. What's so funny about that? But
That's
then it was like
my wife and I have a little startup called Made in Ballard, and years ago, I've been in the record industry, I guess, like my whole adulthood, I guess. But
Since you were 13.
yeah, sort of. So, because I am doing Loose Groove again with Stone, so that's up. But also, after the passing of Sean Smith, this is a big shift, I guess. But you said something about Ballard. My wife and I, we used to have a thing called the Establishment Store, and we financed a couple of Sean's solo records and helped him get those produced and out. And we used to sell, I don't know, Brad stuff, and it became a hassle. And I passed it to a guy in London that ran it for a while. I don't even know where it's at, but regardless, with Sean's passing, my wife and I decided that we wanted to boutique those titles. So the Satchel and the Brad coming out on vinyl for the first time in most cases.
Yeah.
A piece here and there was on vinyl, but I'm going to try and get all those originals and direct to consumer, no barcodes, nothing, literally just banned to consumer, because there's a small group of people that know and love Sean, and we didn't have this stuff on vinyl. So I'm so excited. And it's called Made in Ballard because you know why? It was made in Ballard.
It was made in
It
Ballard.
is so fucking cool.
Now, when you're
Almost
talking about-
everybody
you're
I
talking
know is
about-
Ballard.
You're talking about original demos?
No, the original
Masters.
title. So
Okay.
EDC
Okay.
and The Family from Satchel, as well as Heartache and Honey, the third record. That's actually in production now. And then I have a Brad single in production that's 2 unheard songs, which should help kind of just bump some attention to Made in Ballard. And then maybe the final Brad record, but I'm going to do Shame and Interiors for sure. I haven't done them yet, but it should be. Sean's has 3 records. He's got a shit ton of Bandcamp stuff, but he had 3 proper records, 4 with a live one. But that's, again, to me, that's a Bandcamp thing. 3 proper titles. Satchel has 3 proper titles, and Brad has 5 or whatever. So I'm going to do the 3 and the 3, and then maybe 2 or 3 Brad ones, because the Brad one's been licensed to some other people in the past, but I don't know why I went on that.
And not on Loose Groove.
And then,
Not on Loose Grooves, right. So I'm doing Loose Groove with Stone, but that's like a professional thing. So
what was
new
the impetus for that? Like,
Painted Shield, which is a Stone's new album with Mason Jennings, who's a singer from Minneapolis that has a following in his own career, and Matt Chamberlain from Seattle, who's amazing drummer.
drummer. Drummer.
And so,
He did
then
like
Brittany
early-
Davis is the 4th member of this band, and she does everything. She does singing, keyboards, she does guitar, bass. Like, she's amazing talent. We will be putting out, Loose Groove will be putting out Brittany Davis material. But the nexus was Painted Shield, which is kind of how we started before, as I was trying to get out Malfunction, and he was trying to get out Critters Buggin'. So we ran.
Scarrick.
Yeah, so we
Matt
were.
Chamberlain.
Our
Matt
friends-
Chamberlain.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Yeah,
wait.
and again, Matt Chamberlain. So we're actually have a bunch of the same people are still in play. We basically have a group of musical friends that we've shared music back and forth all these years, and people have different projects. I currently don't have a project going into Loose Groove. I have other projects outside of Loose Groove because I don't feel they fit inside that distribution machine, which takes a pretty decent effort. You have to really go for it, in a sense. Like, it's a financial commitment, and you're trying to hit every store.
Right.
I'm not in that world with Made in Ballard. I definitely want to be direct to consumer and something very boutique. In a Sunno does it, or actually Mudhoney's amazing at it.
Yeah.
Even though they have label help, but Massive Attack does it.
Yeah.
Anyways, those are all way huger.
So why did Loose Groove stop being a thing?
Okay, so we stopped because we had Queens of the Stone Age first album, and it was
pretty good record.
It was a great record, right?
Are we talking songs for the deaf?
No, the first one.
The first one.
Okay.
It was just.
What was that title? Bookworm me real fast.
I don't think
it was titled Queens of the Stone Age.
Okay, copy that.
Eponymous? Is that what that is?
What's that?
Isn't there a word for that? Other than self-titled? Okay, fair enough.
Self-titled debut?
That's the one.
Hit the bell. Thank
Fact
you.
check. Yeah. Good looking out.
Yeah. Okay. So we got Queen's record, and we actually bent over. Like, we really worked hard on that because we were getting traction, but we realized how much it takes to kind of essentially break a band.
Right.
We had a lot of more. Our music was eclectic. We had rap, we had funk, we had a jazz thing, we had some rock records, we had some, we had Eureka Farm, which was the Death Cab guys prior to Death Cab. We had
Amateur Lovers.
Oh my God, Amateur Lovers were amazing, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Wow.
so this stuff is all valid.
So much out of this area.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we put out these great records, but none of them were really the kind that you put into the big machine.
Right.
And then Queens was all of a sudden accepted by the mass. And so our overlords, not our okay, we had patrons. So we weren't financing our own label. We were a vanity label. Both Stone and I were signed to Sony at that time. We were both artists on the Epic label. When we brought these records to the people at Epic for help trying to get our friends signed, they ended up basically saying, why don't you guys do this thing? So it was coaxed along by Sony to begin with.
Oh, okay.
Which is interesting, right? I mean, we definitely did it. We had an office, we had staff, we did a lot of actual work for all of those artists. It ended up that wasn't the initial idea, but it kind of snowballed, and we were a label for 6 years and ended with Queens. And when Queens put out that record, Sony called us and said, okay, pass them up. We'll put out the next record. We're going to take these guys to the next level, which is the plan, right? We're Farm League, and
totally.
And because Loose Groove, our mission statement was to be very proletariat about things and to empower musicians. When we ended our tenure, we gave the masters back to every band, which is unheard of.
Right.
I no longer have my legal right to the masters of the first Queen's record, which is a mistake. Big picture. I'm going to tell you that right now.
That might be a mistake.
It ended up being a valuable thing.
Short-sighted.
Yeah, it was short-sighted, and that's why I live in a very old house in Ballard. So, but regardless, that's okay. I do stick to my ethics in that sense that I love making stuff. I love being involved in the production of books, film, video, records. I just thrive on this stuff. So I don't care. Everything opens another door, right?
Yeah. Oh no.
Sorry,
and
Queens.
Super stand up.
But
you gave them their record.
Yeah, we gave them their record. Everybody, when we shut down, we gave them their masters back, which was.
Why would you apologize to them then?
They have it. I mean, and that's just it. They've licensed it a couple times. I've seen that, they did vinyl through Man's Ruin. I know they've done a few things with it, which is super cool.
Yeah.
But okay, back on track. Sony did not get them because our contract was such that we're not going to force any band to ever do anything they don't want to do.
Okay.
So Sony offered them more points, more everything actually than what they decided to go with, but they decided to go elsewhere because they truly broke away from their parents that were us, they understood our ties to Sony. And even though it looked lucrative initially, they were offered more. They went somewhere else that was at the time way more hip, way more on the finger on the pulse of what was going on with the hard rock scene. So we lost them, and Sony immediately terminated their agreement with us and ceased all funds. So we literally ran out of money like overnight and decided to cut and run. There was a couple of us there that were considering seeking funding elsewhere, and Stone felt like at that particular time his name was forefront, which it still is. People think of it as his thing.
Of course.
It was our thing.
Yeah.
It's still that way.
Yeah.
And it's still that way.
That's the dynamic.
So he just felt like, I need to get away.
Right.
I'm done.
Yeah.
It was a bad scene. Like, think of the politics there. This was
Right.
heavy.
Right.
He's luckily in a position where he's made that company enough money where they can't get that mad at us.
Right.
I was in a totally different situation.
Right.
There's no more Satchel content. I'm not saying that I got dropped per se for any of this, but I know that it was not as pretty as I may have just glazed it over to be.
Right.
So anyways, we're out. They're out. We're done. We shut down. We go about our lives. I raise a family. Stone raises a family. And now he's like, hey, I got this record. I'm thinking about, let's just make it Loose Groove. It's like, okay, let's do that. I mean, I'm in because it sounds like this is fun and I want to do this stuff. I like it.
Yeah.
But Maiden Ballard right now is like, that's really fun too because they're so boutiquey and the little details of the packaging and stuff get to be a little bit fancier. And
When is that stuff can be ready?
that's funny because we put out notice. It used to take me 2 months to get a piece of vinyl made. I put out the first Satchel Heartache and Honey thing in August, and I won't receive it until late January.
Yeah.
So that's insane.
Right.
But I've been doing stuff in Czechoslovakia. There is a logo on all these products we're making that says Maiden Ballard, which doesn't mean shit, but they freaked out. So now they have to stop and re-sticker everything. They're worried about customs, so they have to put a Made in Czechoslovakia over everything. There's been a number of issues that happened, plus the COVID, right? And then one of the vinyl manufacturing plants in the world burnt.
Right.
And everything got fucked up. So there's such a high demand for vinyl, and it's so hard. You just have to get in line. Like, I got 2 out with one company. I'm about to submit to another company, a Smith title that I'm about finished with. I've been digging up the masters, which is hard because I don't want to put out 44.1, obviously, CD quality stuff.
Yeah.
I think people will notice and complain. So, I mean, I definitely 128 would be great. 96 is what I'm ending up with in the, sorry, people that don't know this, but these are all wave form things. It's a syn wave that runs through our heads that makes us feel good or bad.
The reason that I thought about you as our first official guest was because
That's very nice.
the first time I met you was like with Steve.
the drum store?
Garcia.
We were driving up the street on 65th. And
Great Garcia.
Yeah, but it was before it was Garcia though. Whatever it was before that.
Right.
And you were coming out of there and you had your pickup and we were driving somewhere.
Was it Trading Musician for a second there before it moved
I
to the
remember
big spot?
Trading Musician on Roosevelt. Remember that?
But
Yes.
But I don't know.
Yeah.
That's not what,
See, because that's Roosevelt. No,
right,
it is.
That's still Roosevelt, yeah.
No,
Yeah.
that drum shop I felt was closer to the freeway near Green Lake. Kind
Exactly.
It
That's the one we're talking about.
Yeah, that's the one we're talking about. So
Yeah.
you were walking, you were like on the sidewalk and we stopped and we talked to you for a second and you had just
Picked up a Noble Coolie.
just left.
Did I drop that? Sorry.
Oh, excuse me.
Here's my address,
You
Noble
just started
Cooley.
Bliss and
Yes.
you just stopped playing with Molasses.
Yeah.
Molasses. Oh, Molasses.
And it was so strange because I hadn't. heard of
so
Molasses
much
before.
so much fun at those shows, man.
Right?
Yeah. And so how did
that happen?
Yeah.
I love that story.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm working at Tower Records on the Ave, and I'm super Prince fan, right? And I'm in Malfunction, and new kid up front, the girl I work with comes up to me in the back room. Dude up at the cash register likes Prince more than you do. Ha ha ha. And I was like, no way. She's like, go talk to him. I'm like, okay.
Maybe I will.
Maybe I will. He's got long hair. Let me go talk to him. And it's Sean Smith, and I walk up and introduce myself. And we talk about Prince or whatever. And did you ever work at Tower?
No.
Well, back then it was records, so you pick out records for your shift at the register, and then you open them and you play them. You control the music of the store, and then when you're off shift, you go downstairs and you reseal all your records, and you have to put them back. That's just a thing that you do.
back on the shelves?
Back on the shelf.
Okay.
So, which was so eye-opening as a kid, going, "What? This isn't new." Like, who knows? It could have been played however many times by the store. They just resealed it. But
Right.
You gotta love that.
That's American.
right. And we're down there, and I play him this Malfunction recording, and he's really into it, like really into it. And the next day, he brings me this tape. He talks to me about this cassette that he made in Bakersfield, and he's coming back, and he brings it in, and he plays it for me, and it's a 4-track where it's like Princey. So it's a drum machine, it's keyboards, and his soulful voice, and I'm like, oh my God, right? Malfunction is not really doing anything. Love Bones, I've been just kicked out of Mother Love Bone, and it's a good time, right?
Sure.
I'm
sorry, kicked out of Mother
Can I
Love
just
Bone.
ask a quick question?
Yes.
You got kicked out of Mother Love Bone?
Yeah.
What?
So,
So let's back up then.
I'm just curious. And then Greg Gilmore?
yeah, because Greg Gilmore's the shit.
Because he was Greg Gilmore.
Exactly. And that's what made it all so fucking pleasant. Malfunction and Green River shared a rehearsal space for years at that point. Andy and I were kind of best friends when we were in the scene.
Yeah.
And then, he's off with his girlfriend. I start really running around with Stone. I don't know why, but at some point Stone and I became, party buddies. So we did everything together. We did the hanging out at the Nordstroms and stuff, which I can explain how that all started too. But my friend had a job there. But shit.
So you and Stone are now buddies.
Don't stop.
instead
Don't
of the-
stop.
No, I know.
Train
So
of thought.
Stone and I buddies. We're sharing Green River, Malfunction. Sometimes we're all in the same space. You remember Luna Shoe Store on Broadway? It was really had like pretty girls and stuff
Yeah.
were there. It was really different.
Totally remember.
So we used to hang out there to try and look at girls or meet girls. And I'm talking about Stone and I. And sometimes Andy, but Andy's pretty domesticated with ladies at that point, and it's often not around. But they say, you guys should play here. And we end up going, oh, yeah, but neither of our bands can go play at the shoe store. So we end up with this idea that we're going to jam some covers. So we learned some Zeppelin, some Rolling Stones, James Gang. Trying to think whatever we learn a little. We get a set going, and that's with Jeff. So Stone brings Jeff in, and it's Andy and Stone and Jeff and I, and we call it Lords of the Wasteland, and we play at Luna Shoe Store, and we do it a couple times, and they literally give me these cool shoes and stuff, that Hanoi Rock shoes that are furry, and they had like Dalmatian spots on. Seriously, dude, they were the bomb, and they gave them to me for playing there, right?
Hanoi Rocks.
So, right?
Yeah.
Like we're
What was it,
very
2 steps from the move? Or
dude. I'm so glamorous at that point. I have
such a
crimped
good
hair.
record.
I mean, seriously, I'm eye makeup and jewelry every day. Like I'm super androgynous at that point. So, that was so fun. We end up, people treat us well. Like they took it seriously. And then Jeff or Stone was like, I have these originals. We started doing some originals I should know the names of them, right? Because these are now songs that people know. But from their first record, and then we get a show at the Vogue, like a real show, and it's the only real show that I play with them, and we're still Lords of the Wasteland.
Yeah,
it's the last show as Lords of the Wasteland at the Vogue, and Andy and I are cruising down to our space one day, which was first in Washington down there. It was the old Fastback space. We were in there for like 10 years, and we're walking down the stairs. It's where the Love Bone video is, where the kid's hitting the boxing bag.
Okay.
You're like, I don't know any of that shit. So we go down there, and there's Stone and Jeff and Greg playing. And we literally, like, we're supposed to meet Kevin, who's coming off the boat, and we go, literally like, whoa. We turn around and leave. We were in a band with these guys. Andy literally doesn't know about it at this point either. Stone calls me that night. I'm really sorry you had to see that. Greg's back in town from India or wherever the fuck he was. It was somewhere really weird, like off guruing. And so prior to this, like when he joined the Farts as it transitioned into 10 Minute Warning. I was at everything with those guys. I thought he was the cat's meow. I'd help him move his stuff. I just worshipped him. I just watched him play. Right. So to me, I'm like, oh my God, that's Greg Gilmore. He's playing with Stone and Jeff, which this is like the ultimate. And he's like, I really feel bad you had to see that. And I was like, dude, is he going to join the band? Like, will he? And he's like, well, yeah, I think so. And I was like, okay, no problem. You know, I still have Malfunction. Malfunction never actually ceased to exist. We just faded away.
Yeah, right.
We were always ready. Like when Andy came back from the first tour, he was ready to leave Love Bone. First of all, there's some of people in Seattle know that. Like it was not what he wanted it to be. The band wasn't letting him write music. He was like, oh my God, I fell into this thing and we got signed and everything's great. But he really missed, I'm not going to say Malfunction, but I think controlling his band.
Right.
Right.
Being the guy.
So he was an unhappy camper. And things were already being discussed, not really about Malfunction, but a solo kind of Andy thing that would include Kevin and I. And anyways, that's when I got kicked out of Love Bone.
Okay.
And it was fine. It was appropriate. It was probably the right thing to do. The
Sound
right
like you
drummer
almost kicked yourself out of Love Bone.
Well, you know what I didn't. I still like. You know, there's some amazing drummers in Seattle. Unfortunately, you know, if there hadn't been a couple of these amazing, we're talking about drum squad first line drummers. These are the guys that are technically in the jazz and all that. Like they know the notes, they know what they're doing. If they weren't here, I would have been fucking golden.
Right.
But
Solid.
they were here, and that's good. And I watched them and learned from them. And
Makes you
I was
better.
just, you know, I love, like I said, doing a lot of this stuff. So it's hard for me to focus. I'm pretty ADD about my creativity. I can't, like, I don't. Do you drum to headphones ever? I mean, I've never
Sometimes.
done that in my life, right? I've never gone to a practice room and played alone. So I love playing with my friends, and I'll play with multiple friends in different sounding things. But I'm not a great drummer, you know? I mean, technically.
Well,
I have a groove. I have my own voice for sure. I have
your
a sound.
Your voice is strong. Your feel is yours.
Thank you. I agree with that.
Right.
You
I
can
would
listen
say
to
that
any. You could Pepsi challenge, and you know what's
Thanks.
yours.
Well, and I've grown to accept that because there's, you know, like I said, you miss certain things. I know a lot of very successful musicians. I don't consider myself one. I consider it
successful.
well, and it is all financial. And that's what I consider
Right. I would
success.
say-
I have a lot of records that I played on.
I mean, you know, I was telling a story 20 minutes ago about how I break E strings because I get excited when I'm
Right.
playing with my friends who have 20 years experience on me. I
love playing with my friends.
You comfortably can sit in a room with any player. You know what I mean?
Right.
In,
No,
in my mind.
No, I appreciate that, and I would. I mean, I'm just thick enough to go. Yeah. I mean, Stone's actually he threw me into that one time we were in LA, and we were trying to get 11 on Loose Groove, and I went to Alan's house back when his wife, you know, scored all the Disney stuff, like every note that was ever thought of, and they're like, yeah, we want to jam with you guys. And we're like, okay. And I went and sat down, and then Stone, literally, I'm at the drums, and Stone's going, I'm going to pass. I was like, what? And I'm
going to pass.
I had a little moment with those two.
How'd that go?
And that was the most, I'm bringing it up because of the most intimidating situation I've been in with stars. Because generally, I'm not wowed by stars.
Yeah.
In general, just because, we've been around a lot of them.
But that was a little lousy.
Oh my God. Those guys, they're just so good.
Yeah.
Like, in a weird, non-rock way. Like, they know, like this or like this. Oh, what if you went?
Right.
That in the Mozart movie back in the 80s where like
Amadeus.
Amadeus, that's it. Yeah. And the guy's like,
good.
I like your idea. What if you did it like this?
It does it upside down.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I see what you were going for. Maybe
Right.
you missed this.
Oh, yeah.
Amadeus.
Yeah.
See.
Okay, so that's how you got kicked out of Love Bone.
Yeah. So where do we go?
And
You
so
back me up.
you're at what you like? So how soon after that are you working at Tower Records and meeting Sean?
I've been at Tower through that experience. I meet Sean. It goes back to Molasses. So I meet Sean. He plays me Bag of Nasty, which is what he called that first 4-track of his that he brought from Bakersfield. And I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna make a band for you. And it's funny. Just today, I touched the cassette that is when Molasses were trying. Sean came up with the name Molasses, so I thought it was genius.
Yeah.
And he came up with a division, I believe, between Mo and Lasses.
Right.
So it's more girls.
Yeah. So was that not original? Like that's what it.
In the very beginning, it was all original.
No, I'm sorry. Molasses was the impetus of that Molasses, or did he was like, and you know what? It's also Molasses.
I don't know, but
Okay, yeah.
it was I don't know, but it was Sean Smith.
Yeah.
Because typically that's my thing, and
Right.
I like to name bands and stuff, and I like to name stuff. Like
Right.
I like the creation of stuff, tangible stuff. So
But that was Sean.
that one was Sean's. I'm just gonna put that out for
Yeah.
He didn't name Satchel, but he named Molasses.
Right.
Because he left. So we tried, and we had the cassette I had today had Pete Droge on guitar, Michael Wansley on bass. These are known players in town. I mean, they were good. Pete ended up being way better. But, I mean, this is back when he was still a kid from Bainbridge that I was trying to help kind of introduce to Stone in the city, which ended up doing well. Like,
Sure.
Stone loved his stuff, and it really helped elevate him. But
what a nice guy.
Pete,
couldn't be nicer than he is. I mean,
yeah, no, he's a
this
sweetheart.
is a guy that remembered your
Back when-
name.
yeah.
You know what I mean? He literally, you don't see him for a year.
I
He's
know
like,
a Scary
hey, Steve,
Pete, too.
how's it going?
Does anybody know the Scary Pete?
He was sober when I met him.
Oh, yeah, because when he was drinking, it was we had some. So we go way back. So I won't get into that because I don't want to. Nothing needs to be talked about that's negative.
Right.
I'm going to go with that. He's the greatest.
Loving Pete.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I do.
Obviously, again.
But
No, it's wonderful.
like
and
the-
he was
I still want to hear you. But you got to finish the Molasses.
the
story, 'cause I
Molasses
didn't
thing
get
was
it.
great with that
finish
band.
the Molasses
Well,
thing.
anyways, so while we're trying to create Molasses, Jonathan Poneman gets a hold of Bag of Nasty, which is the cassette I heard, and he has the same reaction I did, which was, oh shit, man, I gotta lock this kid down. So he connects him with Fisk as a producer to just generate stuff underneath him, and they put out Pitch and Head. And in that process, he's like, I have to go. I'm gonna go do this. I'm not gonna do Molasses right now. And that's great. I'm like in the fight. I'm going to continue. I just met Harry Worth, who is the bass player, and he was trying to get me to join his kind of funk band. And I said, look, Sean and I are over here. We're trying to basically mimic the time, like a Prince thing, but more party, more house, more, something we can bring live to these people. And Harry was like, okay, I'm in. And he ended up bringing like all these guys. So I went from that Droge Wansley thing to Harry Worth, who's a bass player. You know Harry,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
He's Hit Explosion
Amazing,
as a
yeah.
spin-off
Yeah.
of Malfunction, or I'm sorry, of Molasses, and they're
yeah.
still going.
Yeah.
But he brought over 2 more guitar players.
Keith?
He brought in
Keith, the keyboard player? Was he back then?
Now, Keith is the very end of my experience with them. So when Keith came in, Keith and I went to school together. His dad was my soccer coach. So when he came in, he was the keyboard player at Nordstrom's, right? He was the Tinkle Man.
Seriously?
Right? Yeah.
Like during Christmas?
They just ceased that job. But if you shop at Nordstrom's, there's always a piano player tinkling around on a grand piano.
Yeah, like right below the escalators.
Yep,
Yeah.
right by that. Right, so that they just cut that job off this year, first time in the history of the company.
Oh, bummer.
So
But
Keith's unemployed.
this guy that I went to school with, like, he was that guy, and Harry brought him into Molasses as a keyboard player. I don't know why. Like, we had someone prior to that, and I can't even remember, because it became a 10-piece band at one time. I was in there for about 3 years with those guys, and we did flip the city upside down as far as like draw, and we started to get a percentage of bar because we were demanding. Like if we were there, shit was popping.
Right.
It was a weird time, right?
No,
You couldn't do that now.
No.
You guys created a lot of go home great evenings for me.
Well,
and
and
I'd
that's
like to thank you very much for that.
Well, and that's the thing, is it was really open to all. It was mellow, a lot of females as opposed to kind of this rocker dude
It was
scene.
one of the first where outlying women would
Yes,
come.
yeah,
Right.
definitely. And
Somebody that heard of you.
well, and I really dug that. Like, that was a noticeable change, and both Satchel and Brad really went and had that as well. It was like became so chill to have a lot of hugging, and like I said, crying.
You
and stuff.
invented a new draw.
Yeah.
Well, and the thing is, we realized, wow, we were really making this happen, and they're just trying to give us $50.
Right,
Remember?
right.
I mean,
Yeah.
so we turned that 50. We added zeros on that stuff, and we really started to make shit happen. And I was managing kind of all of it. Right? I'm overbearing. If you ask anybody, including Stone and the people I'm overbearing in these situations, generally in these creative settings, which I'm not trying to be, but I'm gushy. I'm just like into it, like I was saying.
Yeah.
So I will drive if no one's driving.
Yeah.
And Keith came in and is money managing his father. Like, they're like, he wanted to manage. He
the
actually
DNA.
ended up instigating getting a full-time professional manager to come in and work with us. And the two of them threw a coup. And I had them within months of his entry of the band. I had the whole band in my apartment ousting me, a mutiny, which I was like, okay, look, fair. That's fair. My suggestion is I take Molasses with me. It was my thing. It was my connections. I booked all these things. It was through my rock experience and my knowledge of the city and the venues that
Growing up in this town.
Yeah,
growing
that's
up
right.
In this
So,
industry.
So I did these things. How's that for a fair exchange? They rejected that idea initially because they were empowered by our success, which I understood. And I chose to not battle them. They did end up switching the name to Hit Explosion,
Right.
because they realized there was more money in covers than there were originals.
Yeah.
We were trying to go originals, and they went covers, which funk covers is like they literally 20 years later, these people make their livings from that group.
Yep.
Right.
And they're successful, and they get flown around to do corporate events, and
And they were one of the first
they're good.
disco. Like,
Yes.
they were
Yes, and
so-
they're good
So
at what they
and
do.
that's-
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
so
Really
that,
good.
that they evolved into that fly date corporate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, understood.
So that was Molasses.
Yeah.
And I at that point was working at a reprographics place because I wanted to make those
I
giant
worked
posters.
at Reprographics too.
Right, so I'm at Waterfront Reprographics, and
me too.
do you remember those?
I was in the print division right there on the.
I ran the Shaco up front. I
Oh my
ran
God,
I could
were we
do
coworkers?
Diazo. Could have been. I ran Diazo.
my God.
There's
Where
nothing.
Where did you guys meet? Because you guys already
I
knew
would
each other
think
at
it
that
would.
point.
I always think of you as venue based. Like, you've been around doing production
Right.
forever.
I've been doing. Right. I just
Stage manager for what,
So
25 years?
I started,
Or maybe
so
just
I
last
started,
5 years.
You know, I started out stagehanding.
Right.
I started out stagehanding. That's how I met all you guys.
I'm finally stage manager. No,
Right,
just kidding.
finally,
Just kidding.
it took 30
And
years.
now no more stage. Sorry.
Okay, you guys, hurry up, stay on time. So
Yeah.
I started out as a stagehand.
It's a big job, actually. It's a lot.
I evolved. Oh man, are you kidding me? It's you guys are murder.
Yeah. It's true.
Respect the clock.
And you're welcome.
Are you talking about bands or crew?
I think it's just
No,
the
it's just, well,
logistics
you know,
of the stacks and just
the
like
hard-
everything in, everything out.
The
Everything.
hardest shows are when the bands are your buddies. And they're like, "Hey, Steve," and you're like, "You're right. You still have to respect the clock."
Well,
And they're like, "We'll see."
But you guys
at the
probably met, like,
I'm
his
trying to
first gig
remember
was the
where I
Hungry
met.
Crocodiles.
I want. Do I dare say I was like going to, I think the first time I not met, but saw a Malfunction. I think I'm wrong though, because
Malfunction is hard for people to have caught. Our last show was in
I don't think-
'88,
no,
which is
I
still
wanna feel
early
like
for a lot of people.
Maybe I probably saw you in the Molasses days.
Yeah.
I think is probably where we met.
A lot of people coming to shows around that time.
Yeah,
yes,
well,
that
and then
makes
you know,
sense.
I was doing the Hungry Crocodiles thing.
Exactly.
And
That would have been us. We did
and
so
we
much
were,
with
like,
Crocodiles.
do a lot of support for you guys.
Yep.
Our flip flop.
Oh, so
Exactly.
it's probably that.
Or-
It's probably that.
Or
I think
like,
it probably
or
was.
we were doing we're cherry popping daddies.
You're right, exactly.
Remember the Cherry
Again,
Poppin'
those guys
would come up from
running from
P-Town and we
yep,
would,
Portland's
and the rotation.
Masters. Exactly.
You would be like, okay, we're first, second, or third tonight. We would do
Mm-hmm.
a lot of shows with these cluster of bands, and you would take turns. And
Yep.
it turned into this just
Yeah.
7 p.m. to 2 a.m. type thing for. That's so rude, Jeff.
I know. Why don't you just go ahead and turn that off?
I don't know why.
I mean,
though.
or we could just call it.
Reagan's
Are you busy?
So sorry
understand
that
that.
Yeah,
Jeff's
that's all right.
too busy with
He's
other
busy.
things right
I
now to-
understand.
Christ. Sorry, fellas.
Well, those are definitely good times. And at that time, Nirvana's blowing up, right? So it's a weird thing. I remember Sean saying, "Hey, you're missing out on Nirvana because of Molasses," because we played like all the time. And I was like, "Yeah, whatever." I'd seen them. I didn't think that much of them. No offense to them, but it was very sub poppy and to me in that garage. Sonics way. I love the
No, I get
Sonics,
it.
but you know what I mean? Like,
I
they're-
follow you.
this is that vein and being kind of monotone in a sense is a big deal, and then Grohl came, right? So that
Just
flipped that
whole
band
other-
around, right?
yeah.
A drummer is everything to a band, just like Gilmore to Love Bone. Although you should have heard me play that shit.
Nobody's
man. You
taking
guys,
that away.
Oh my god! Believe
oh,
me.
man, dude, stop. You're right.
The girl stuff, I was Sean was really like going, dude, check this out. It's like a
got this.
monster. And the guy I was working with this guy at Waterfront who said, come and meet to jam with me. I'm a drummer. Come and teach me something. Right? Which I'm no teacher, but I was like, I'll go have a beer with you. He had a place right down by the stadium. And, we were basically at the ferries, and I had to go 3 blocks south to have a beer with this guy after work. I get there, and he had tricked me, which is the weirdest thing. And Corey Kane and John Hogue, who are the 2 guys that are in Satchel, are physically there when I arrive. And they're plugged in, and my buddy's not going to play with me at
Sweet.
all.
They ambushed you into a tryout.
Yeah. And so
I see this coming.
I play with these 2 guys. I go, look, these guys are good. One guy's a Cornish student. Corey's a Cornish guy, knows every note in the book, killing it on bass. And then his cousin on guitar being really like, he's super Nirvana. He's kind of like long hair. He's freaking out. He's like playing pretty cool. He's a pretty interesting cat. And so I call Sean, dude, I just play with these guys. It's fucking crazy. And he's like, okay, I'll go. So the next night we meet again. We agreed to meet the next night. And that's bliss. So that first night we all agree we're going to be a band. Sean's really into it, and he's over the Pigeon Head thing. Not that he's over it, but he's run its course. He realizes it's not a functioning kind of thing, that he goes to rehearsal or whatever. They work in the studio.
It's not a band.
It's not a band
It's not
per
a
se,
club.
but
It was a studio project.
Yeah, and
it was pretty cool.
And we
It was pretty
start
fucking cool.
rehearsing, and we're Bliss, and our first show's at the Paramount. You know, we open for Bob Dylan, which is, again, it's like one of those things. It's like, that seems weird.
I love these. I love these casual gigs.
Just say that line again.
I love
Say
these
that whole
casual
sentence
gigs.
again.
What?
So
Okay,
it's our first gig, and we opened for Dylan.
Not you. Not you. I want him to say
Right.
it again.
Sorry.
Well,
for
I know
stealing
that sounds weird, but it goes to show you that I had spent so much time through the Showbox, etc.
Yeah.
With Malfunction, 8 years with Malfunction.
I was just say, you were like
these 3 years
all
with
the
Molasses,
promoters.
like shaking it up, and I know all these people, and I'm like, wait, I got a new thing, and I got Smith, and he's doing Pigeonhead with Sub Pop, and they're like, oh my God, come to the
Great.
show.
How about Bob Dylan?
Yeah, no problem. Because Bob Dylan wanted an unknown. He had specifically requested. It's kind of like when Satchel did that. There was the End Fest with Gene Simmons. Do you remember that?
I just saw that. I was like
the
doing some.
Enfest at Kitsap County.
So I played Deuce with Gene at Endfest.
I just saw that last night on the interwebs.
So epic, and that was where
the hell?
Gene.
How did that happen?
Well, okay, so
I was the
somebody
crew chief
called.
on that gig, probably.
Somebody called Curtis Management. It was either Curtis Management or it was Susan Silver's place. I think
Those
it
are
was
the only
Susan.
two real managers.
Exactly. So I think it maybe was Susan Silver's place. Like maybe they either knew Soundgarden or Alice in Chains at the time. And so Gene's people knew he was going to be here emceeing the event, and he wanted to perform one song with a local band. And
Yes,
someone suggested us and gave him our phone number, our space, our practice room, which was also a daily hang. Had a phone in it.
With a landline.
With a landline,
no
literally
cell
a
phone. He called
landline.
you on a landline.
He called on a landline,
No, keep going.
and John Hogue picked up the phone, and he was like, "Hey, this is Gene, and I'm coming to town on this date, and I want to do a song. You guys want to be my band?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure. What do you want to play?" And he's like, "Deuce." And we're like, "Okay,
So you learned
let
in
us know."
5 minutes.
Yeah,
Gene
and
calls you.
He called. He himself, and he called, and he got us ourselves.
I have a quick
Nobody in
question.
between.
I have a quick question. Was it like this? Regan, it's Gene Simmons. I'll set your pets on fire if you don't take the gig.
Yeah, no.
Was it like that or what?
Well,
like,
I didn't take the call. John Hogue did.
Okay.
But I think it was just super normal. And this is back, like we said, we didn't have cell phones then.
Yeah.
If you remember that.
Yeah, I
I
do.
think cell phones were like 2000, right? Am I wrong?
you
I was
guys,
the
we
first-
all had. Hey, we all had.
1999, I had one.
Time out.
I was
We
the-
all had pagers.
No. Steve had one because he was a drug dealer.
We
I was not a drug
we
dealer.
had
I
a
just
pager
had a-
when we were on the road, and
I had a
that's
job.
it. And the tour manager guy had it, and that was it.
I went on a tour at the end of 1999. I was the only one with a cell phone. The tour manager didn't have one.
We would get mad at each other waiting in line at the phone with get off with your girlfriend. I got to call my
You had to
girlfriend.
hustle the.
So it was 1999. Was like that was when people started.
Nokia.
Yeah, it was totally a Nokia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look. It's like a pager, but it talks.
Yeah. And you could text them, but no one understood that.
Right,
Oh,
exactly.
No one knew it was.
Yeah.
Right,
And
right.
that's like the BlackBerry pinging or whatever. Like, no, that's a text.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah. Yeah, Deuce.
Deuce.
I
So
just
yeah, I
saw
got
that
to play
today.
Deuce
So you
with
learned
Ace.
Deuce.
Or I'm sorry, Gene.
But you got to hang out with Gene then for a minute.
Yeah, just green room, hang out. He was really nice to all of our wives and stuff. He was actually very lovely.
He was nice to our
Well,
wives.
you know what?
Well,
That's
he-
not a given.
Right.
I've toured with Kiss's tour manager. So I want to say this is funny, but in my tenure with Neil.
Uh-huh.
In the end, Eric was gone. So the last couple of years, Eric had actually exited Neil's camp because he helped do roadies and that Rockstar movie or whatever it was called, Stars Born or whatever the remake was. So he had gone to Hollywood and was becoming a consultant about rock before he started working for Metallica, where he's been now for a while. And I stayed on with Neil as Neil's guy, and they brought in another tour manager,
Right. Oh, okay.
this guy, Gooch. And he was Smashing Pumpkins' Kiss guy. And so I heard so many Kiss stories, and I was like, wow, I just felt so thankful that Gene was so polite to the ladies and the people in our group, because, I think sometimes maybe those guys go,
yeah.
are rude maybe. I don't know. I hate to say that.
Well,
I don't
even
want to be
out,
disparaging,
even out in
but
public though. Also, I got one Gene story, and we had just played at that Viper Room place, which is
Yeah.
a kind of a small place, and
yes,
the girl I was with was like an attractive woman, and Gene is in the back of the room and gets her eye and is like
Letchinger.
doing, and she's like just running the other. What are you
Right?
talking about? He's like, he like wouldn't let it go. It's
He gets away with that shit too. It's the
kinda
problem.
So she was running for her life, or she was gravitating to him.
not gravitating to him.
Right.
She
right.
was. I believe the word we would also accept repulsed.
I've got.
Yes.
I have a Gene story through. So I have an old industry friend, Jeff Mason. Like
Cooler hanging out with Lemmy, by the way.
super old school.
Then Gene.
Yeah.
Super old school, like tour manager.
Speaking of
like,
bass players,
you know,
yeah.
Jay Giles, Journey guy, like tour managed. Did all these old school 70s into 80s bands. He did a Kiss tour, and of course Gene, you know, took out a Dalai Lama at the airport, and Jeff had to absorb that and like
What
keep
do you mean
Gene,
took out? He punched a Dalai Lama.
he knocked out a Dalai
Gene
Lama.
Simmons punched
That's
a
so
Dalai
crazy.
Lama.
Yeah, like,
and by
I'm-
that,
we're-
I'm taking Sri Rajneesh,
we're
whatever,
talking
right?
peak 70s.
Those guys that were at the airports at
Right,
the time, right?
We're talking peak 70s Kiss.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
talking like when Kiss was like, I've never heard of Led Zeppelin.
He's
We're-
very
we're in
Republican,
Yeah.
you know that, and he's
Oh,
moving.
God, yeah.
He's
He's an
moving to the
extreme-
state, our state, because of that.
What's that?
He's moving here, you know.
I did not.
What, like
Gene-
Spokane?
It's somewhere like that. Yeah,
Really?
Is
He's
it to
gonna buy,
avoid
like-
income tax?
Because of income tax, he's somewhere on the east side. And
He's going to buy like 18 acres.
you got
and
yes, and you know I'm sure he'll have a McMansion out there. But you guys, he's coming from L.A. Wow, rude awakening,
Dude, seriously.
he's going to be
Eastern
so bored
Washington.
here.
yeah.
But wait,
Enjoy.
he's pushing 70, so maybe
He's
Yeah,
still
maybe
Gene
it doesn't
Simmons.
matter. But he's not going to run
it's gonna
around to the Playboy Mansion any longer.
Yeah, what's the
he's
closest
moving
thing?
here. Gene's
what is
moving
the,
here.
He's going to go to Spokane for a good time.
Yeah.
No offense,
Everyone's
Spokane.
leaving Los Angeles apparently.
You know, just the hoarders,
why?
I guess. There's something to do with they don't want to pay taxes because they got used to not paying them. I think
Yeah.
it's
Okay.
like,
Can you go to Florida?
and when you
right?
have that much money, you could never spend it, and you're worried about it. We're different people. I'm not like you. I don't get it.
I'm trying to. So, just on
pay
that
taxes.
note,
Just pay taxes.
on that note, we like nice things. We like
Yeah.
sushi. We like food. We like good. We like all.
Yeah, I
but,
love nice stuff.
But at one point,
I don't want.
you can only eat so much, and you know,
Could you eat a stack of good stuff in front of you that's you could never finish, and then watch some guys stare at you that are hungry?
No, I could no.
I couldn't either.
No, I
So,
would totally.
Makes me
Gene can.
uncomfortable. Yeah. Okay, I do want to ask you about
Now,
one other thing.
Oh, you're.
I got one other
Jeff's
thing.
notes.
Well, I just got one more.
Outstanding.
I
Okay.
just want to talk to you about. You were telling me about the comic book you guys are doing.
Oh yeah, Eric Johnson.
Yeah.
Once again, so Eric Johnson's
Yeah.
comic book.
He's
so
very- we
he
might have
is
to have him
He's
on
prolific
here.
artist.
Yeah.
Right. He's been doing, like I said, he did that Soundgarden, those early shirts that are actually the most memorable.
Yeah.
You know, he's in museum. I don't know. I know one of his shirts in not our silly museum, but like MoMA or something.
Yeah.
So, which is silly. But he, like, when I put out the first Brad record, he put on my desk, Loose Groove was going around. It was a picture. Okay, Pops Coolove, do you know who that is?
No.
He was a guy who was like a bodybuilder that had a deal with Sony at some point. It was a little bit funny. No offense to him. He was a very nice person. I met him. It was great. But Eric took his body, it's like beefed up, and he cut Stone's head, my head, and he did this repeating bodybuilder thing. It's the middle of the CD of the first Brad record is what I ended up putting it in there. But that's Eric. Like, he's constantly, again, like I talk about creative energy and stuff. He's doodling and making cardboard robots, and on the road, there's a lot of idle time, and he's making stuff. We have art jams. And since the pandemic, he's been spinning out. He lives in San Diego now, and we talk on a regular basis, and I was his assistant, right? So that in our relationship never ceased, kind of like
Sure.
he's the boss, and I have to talk to him. And I was like, come on, let's just take your comics and we'll just let's make a comic book. Like I lay stuff out for people all the time. I make books and all the Pearl Jam newsletters and stuff. I make all those deeps and stuff. So I was like, let me just send me. Will you please put it all in folders? Send it to me. And he did, and we started making these comic books. And that's why I was talking to you about your company. It's like we're going to do these reviews, and they're going to be a music, cannabis, beer companies, the things that are really happening here in Seattle, and it's low circulation, obviously, and it's goofy, and it's Cream Magazine-esque in its tongue-in-cheek nature. Yeah. We have Stars Cars as a feature where we have local artists. The first one is the Deception. We have Sam and his work truck in an issue, and then the next issue is actually Neil on a El Dorado 52 Biarritz by chance. That's why I'm thinking of that particular car, because that's the next issue 3 star car of Ibericus Comics. But yeah, so we're doing that, and that's why I was like, you're one of the people I know that has a company that can actually get critiqued here, but it doesn't mean that it's going to be in depth. It's all pointless in a sense, but I thought you might get a kick out of it.
That'd be super fun.
Sounds.
And that's just it. I'm getting some people. It's like coffee. My character's D-, which is when you tour, everybody's got this like funny name that they use for hotels, which I never use. I'm always under my own name, but my running name is D-, which is an inside joke with us because I get to be the doofy guy around Eric. Very quiet when we travel because that's my place. And so D, the theory is D is going to just write about whatever the fuck D wants to write about, and it's usually whatever's going on in the day. Donuts, coffee. This is excellent coffee. This donut sucked.
Oh, so it's D- doing the reviews?
Yeah, D- reviews. It's called D- reviews.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
And they are letter graded.
Yeah.
Things are letter graded. The issue that we're producing right now has got Deftones, Ohms, Family Donut. Do you know Family Donut on 45th?
No,
I don't.
It's killer.
Is it the one the donut shop that's been there forever?
It's new and it's not new. So there's 2 of them in town. They do the stuff like the Portland donut place.
Yeah.
Top Pots or
no. This one you might get like Fruit
Dante's.
Loops. Yes.
Yeah.
And they're delicious. So
they did the cough medicine one. Got in trouble for it.
Oh my god. They'll do, and you can get a green tea one or some shit there too.
Is it when Winchell's? Did they take over the Winchell's building, or is that not the?
No,
that's not that one.
I'm trying to think of what that was.
I remember Winchell's.
Yeah,
Winchell's. I mean, I'm a donut person, so I love donuts.
Yeah.
And I loved Top Pot and many other places. But then when those places sell, they all tend to go by the same. When they change their butter and flour, things get chewy in the same way. Yeah. Macrina. You guys are right here, right? Do you remember when they sold and all of a sudden their stuff changed?
Yeah.
I don't want to disparage anybody, but there's such a big difference, and so I love to talk about the differences.
They sell and then they go cheap on
that's what I tend to see.
Right. No,
I don't know if that's true.
They have the they got
again,
which is a crime because there's a reason why it got big. There's a reason why it got popular. There's a reason why the reputation went.
That's right. If you don't cut corners and you are all about the product, just like Steve Jobs, then boom, your stuff's dynamite. And then once you start monetizing. Capitalism sucks the fucking life out of everything.
Right. Remember when candy bars tasted good?
Right?
Yeah, a Reese's peanut butter cup was good.
It's still the greatest fucking thing on the planet.
Now it's gross. Now it's just this chalky, gross thing.
No, they are. It is. You look in the materials that are going into it. That's the difference.
No, I feel you.
That's fancy lad stuff. And D- is pretty fancy, and he's stayed at some nice places. I don't mean to be third person. I'm trying to get this character going.
No, it's good. You work on it.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to ask you about was, and I don't know. I'll ask you if we can talk about this, and you can say no if we can't.
Ooh.
It's not that big a deal.
I'm intrigued.
It was a long time.
Whoa, you're making me nervous.
The Weed House
Yeah, my weed house. That was a big deal.
That was a big deal.
I'll be happy to talk to you about it.
Yeah, because it was like that was when it was a fucking big deal.
Time out. First of all, got to say I love the name.
Yeah.
It was
a grow house.
No, Book learned me on the weed house, you guys.
Yeah.
Well, the Rock Candy Bus. Do you remember Rock Candy Bus?
I totally remember the Rock Candy Bus.
I lived in one of those houses.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
So you ready? And Regan will remember this. I'm in Los Angeles on tour with this band called the Hungry Crocodiles.
Oh, that's great.
I'm in a hotel room.
Yeah.
We're doing like I don't even know the show we're doing. It's not even CNN. It's not even CNN. It's like CNN 2.
Yeah.
And it talks about the big marijuana bust in Seattle, Washington.
Yes.
And I'm like, you guys.
Hey, look,
you guys.
we're famous.
I'm like, holy shit. And everyone's asleep or in the shower. And they're like, what, Steve? Fuck you, what? I'm like, we're in the news. We're in the news. And the band is like, oh my God, they're all excited. We come charging out to CNN 2.
Wow.
And the story's just ending. Yeah. And they're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, there was a major drug bust in Seattle.
National
They're
news.
like, oh,
it was national news.
We thought the band was in the news.
And so,
it was
national news. Yeah.
99, 97,
it was earlier.
90,
it was earlier than that.
Yeah, let's say it was in 95.
Yeah,
wow.
That makes sense, yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
It was in 95 because my son was born in 97, so 95.
Luckily, it was before.
I love that. Right.
So Regan is also going to be. You're going to have to come back because I know
we're begging you to come back.
Six-pack of Baroni and you're good, right?
Yeah.
We're begging you to come back. I will do a 12er. We'll step up to the 12er, man.
Yeah.
Okay,
and again, go ahead. Yeah, just go do your thing.
Okay, Rock Candy.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so Alex Rosenhaus and I started Rock Candy. I don't know if you knew that.
I didn't know you were involved in that.
Yeah.
I love the giant statue in the front room.
Giant statue.
The giant statue by the stairs.
Yeah.
There was the big metal statue by the stairs.
I'm just trying to remember it. Okay.
It's a long time ago.
So Rock Candy at first was a roaming party where I played records and Alex bought kegs of beer and we sold beer.
Okay.
And we rented this place. We rented the half room down below. And we rented that sports bar out in the U District. We rented Jules Mays.
Jules Mays.
So,
oh my
so
God.
we had this thing where I was super into music and I had a lot of records. And Alex was like a promoter-minded guy. He had just moved here from California and was going to UW. And he was a friend of Stone's. And Stone introduced the two of us. He had the idea, asked me if I could do it. I'm like, yeah. We started doing it. And we did these parties. And we were... Alex was really making money. Once again, I'm so proletariat in general. I'm a total socialist, and I never got paid at the showbox. Really, I don't remember being paid by Alex when we were doing these things or taking a share of the money. No, I honestly
remember.
No, I have been financially taken advantage of in this town many times.
Right.
And I will hold a grudge. Like some people I won't forget it, and other people, it's worth the exchange. So again, I'm all about the production of whatever. Right. So I want to produce things, arts. Anyways, Rock Candy, we're doing these parties. It's so fun. And I'm spinning records and he's selling beer and we're killing it, and he finds that property that is Rock Candy and buys it. So that the property, everything, it was like $125,000 back then. Which you live in Seattle,
city is
oh my God,
joke.
no, you guys,
Jesus, dude,
and we had to get. He got a couple other partners, and we brought in Tommy O'Neill. Okay, so Tommy O'Neill, Seismic Audio, he's been doing audio for me for years.
He's still around, man.
So Tommy is now really close with me, and he's got the good weed. So I start buying weed from Tommy, and he is a Rock Candy partner. He brought the sound system into what became the physical Rock Candy building, which became a international act, right? It was a mid-stage for Seattle, if you don't know, and it had a lot of fucking great times there. So we opened that place. I'm involved in the build, right? You probably were. I know a bunch of people, it's all us guys and bands, build the place out, paint it, get it ready, start having bands. We're all buying weed from Tommy. And Tommy comes to me one day and he's like, hey, you want to live in a grow? And I was like, for free weed? And he's like, no, it doesn't really work like that. Like, you'll pay rent, you'll get this and that, you'll get a percentage of the crop or whatever. I was like, okay, whatever, I'm in. Like, I really, as a musician, wanted a free place to live badly. Sure. Money was always an issue because I was trying to do the things I wanted to do and not really worry about work or whatever. So, it's embarrassing, but it was like a movie where your girlfriend's really like kind of taking care of you. Musicians,
right?
At that time, it was really it's embarrassing, but
it's your 20s.
That's the way it was. And I was looking. I was like, damn, I'm going to get free rent in this place. Sort of, I have to pay for a while, but it's all going to flip over. And went in there and started growing weed, and all I did was water. Right, so I moved into this house that he had, and it was in the basement.
Yeah,
it was beautiful. It was beautiful. Right, I loved it. I was moved by it in a personal way. I'm a huge proponent of cannabis and a daily smoker and have been for literally my entire life. It actually, I was doing that CBD challenge, yours. I'll talk to you later, but that was by far, 700 times better. So you can't just use CBD. You need CBD with THC, I think.
The whole plant.
Side
it's
thing.
the whole plant. Yeah, totally.
So I'm really interested in doing this, and I love it on a spiritual level, I guess, right?
Yeah.
And I had moved into this house. I was living there with my girlfriend for a minute. I started growing. She didn't like it. She moved out. This is my now wife. She moves out. If you're going to grow weed, I'm not going to live here, right? I'm like, damn it. This is it really actually started fucking with my life. I was about to lose my girlfriend. I had my pot buddy living with me, and he and I were exchanging the work. The workload is a daily thing. Watering, it's not a terrible amount of work, but it needs daily tending. So there's two of us guys living there, and I get a call, and it's my buddy, and he's like, don't go home. There's police all over the house.
Wow.
I'm like, holy shit, right? This is...
How long had you been living there?
I had only been there, I think, less than 6 months. So I had never brought a crop to fruition.
And how many plants are we talking about?
I talk about bad luck, right?
Yeah, no.
So I think I had around 47 plants.
Oh man, I'm so good. I was about to say 50 to 60.
Yeah. So it was about.
Are we talking chest high? Are we talking Christmas trees?
You're talking 6 footers.
I would say they were 6 footers in their pot. So they're 4-foot plants, and I was just about at the end of the cycle. So it was all stinky and good and amazing, right?
Yeah.
Cops come and not only take that, but they physically destroy the house.
Right.
Like you would see in a show. So they've taken books and thrown them across the floor. They've taken all the personal photos, that album, scattered all CDs everywhere, stuff stepped on, all my all the things that they like my flashlights, ammunition clips to guns, all that stuff is stolen by the police. No, they took it.
Oh, good. Well, that's good, though. It's good they took the guns.
Well, no. The guns was a massive issue, so I ended up dealing with that. So the court case is a really big deal. I wasn't home, so I'm on the run for a 2-week period. I'm the only one involved that isn't apprehended. And I'm watching the news, and people are in. It's bad.
Yeah,
it's honestly.
Again,
Steve's in Los Angeles hearing about it.
I saw
this
it
is scary.
I saw it on the low budget news channel, let alone the real news.
You were on the run for 2 weeks.
It's a very long time. Yeah.
Oh man.
And what were you doing?
I was
for 2 weeks?
my first night. I was at the Westin. We checked into the Westin with our credit cards.
Yeah.
And then realized in the second night, oh my God,
wait, the credit card.
They're going to track their credit card. So we're like, we got to get out of here. And this is, again, I'm with my, at that time, girlfriend, who's now my wife. I was at her place trying to win her back, or I would have been arrested. Okay? So
Thanks, Leanne.
Oh, and hey, I'll tell you this. When we go to court, because they know she's with me and that she had lived in that house prior, she gets absolutely full. Everything I was busted for, she was busted for. She has all the same criminal charges and was literally not involved. And the police, I learned so much about the criminal justice system.
Yeah.
They lied on the stand. I did go to court, to trial. I did kind of jump forward. I was on the run.
Yeah.
We ended up leaning on friends. It was freaking friends out. No one was comfortable having us around, obviously. This was a very big deal locally. And, High Times reached out to me. They wanted to talk to me. I ended up doing interviews in New York with them because I was in a band that was being in the press at the time.
Yeah.
So it was hairy.
And so that 2 week comes to an end. How?
Well, what happened was I got a lawyer, and the lawyer contacted the police, and the police said, we're looking for him. Here's the date of the arraignment. I appeared at my arraignment and was arrested.
Yeah.
I appeared with a lawyer and with bond. So we had kind of reached out to them in advance to say, what's your plan? They did arrest me and take me into King County Jail. I posted bond and was released. So my experience was about 8 hours. I never slept there, very fortunately.
Baller move.
And that's because I knew at that point, I knew now rock stars who bailed me out.
Right.
I'm very thankful for that. Sure. It was the music community that let me escape this. Again, the criminal justice system here, I will say they lied. They
took liberties.
They falsified stuff. They like I said, they convicted my now wife of this, and she literally wasn't involved.
They embellished. It's an embellishment thing.
They held up pictures of my partner in the crop and said, "Here you are." And literally, I'm looking. This is in court, and I'm looking at them, going, I mean, we did look similar, but we're completely two different people.
Right.
And in court,
luckily,
they used a picture that wasn't me as me. And I had to just sit there and just go, okay, we're going through your rigmarole here.
Oh, my. So you couldn't say, hey, whoa, I'm not in that photo.
No,
Objection.
I couldn't. I can't.
No, not you.
I couldn't.
I don't. And you're sitting there going, I don't know how to say I'm not in that photo.
It was the course of my attorney to not speak. Once I spoke, they can go at it completely.
Your attorney
So
said just wait.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Understood.
Understood.
So I wasn't allowed to discuss anything. So I had to just sit there and take it. But I ended up being convicted and of manufacture with intent, conspiracy to defraud, local utility.
And your wife as well. Were you jumping?
No, all for her too.
No, I mean, were you jumping utilities?
Yes.
Yeah.
I wasn't. I didn't know.
you-
Right? Exactly. I moved into this house.
What?
Apparently,
He
they
didn't
were.
know what
they
he
were-
didn't know what that was when it was happening.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and to me, that's so clear. Like it's like, but whatever.
Yeah. Right.
I'm involved.
So
yeah.
hey,
And I also had at that time a weapon. So I'm not a weapon person at all. I'm just saying when I was younger and the Bainbridge experience, and I ended up having one. I've got military everywhere around my family as well. Like in the long picture, I'm not allowed to basically be at my father's house if he has a rifle for hunting. You know what I mean? It's like there's
Ever?
a huge
still to this day.
Yeah.
Well, that's vague because I had this weapon and I wasn't there, and it was locked away in the house. So they charged me with committing a crime with a weapon, and then my attorneys won. That's the only thing I won in court was how can he commit a crime when he wasn't present and he wasn't within touch of this weapon?
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So luckily they miswrote that. You know, like if they would have phrased it differently, they might have been able to win that.
Got
but
that as well.
anyways, that was a very, very ugly time in my life, obviously. And I was depressed. It was just enchanting.
Yeah.
I felt it was egregious in the sense that like I said, I'm a believer in cannabis medicinal quality, and it's what it's done. And there's a reason it's being suppressed, and it's
for sure.
it's a negative reason.
I'm not going to get on some big soapbox and political bandwagon, blah blah blah. But quite frankly, wake up, walk out your front door, and understand that marijuana's on the bottom of your worry list.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying.
I mentioned my
ADD
ADD tendencies, and like I have a lot of this energy, and that's why certain tasks, I am a high functioning smoker. So,
right.
I go through all of that, like international logistics with Neil, all of these things that are super detailed.
So, and then quite frankly,
it helps me manage those things.
And then people here's what, and when you say I'm a high functioning smoker,
yes,
most people don't understand that.
Right. Agreed.
And when I say that, what I mean is everyone associates smoking pot to Spicoli.
Right.
Fast Times at Ridgemont High. I'm sure. Oh, what? Let's go eat Twinkies. So when you say, I'm a high productive or high functioning smoker, people.
It's medicinal.
That people don't understand.
It is medicinal.
You'd probably be less functional.
Well, I'm in the creative realm, so every job I have is based in a creative thing. So either I'm designing for you in print, I'm maybe directing a video for your band.
Yeah.
Or I'm making a record with you.
Right.
These
You're
are
enhancing creativity.
But everything is so detailed, and there's so many choices that are constant. Life is nothing but choices, right?
Yeah.
But to me, they're
Endless.
like a constant waterfall. Have you ever stood under a waterfall, an actual one? It's amazing, and it's scary for a second. It like takes your breath away, right?
Yeah.
Have you ever done it? I know now I'm getting weird, but
You're in the weed.
it's like that with creativity. It's just like it's just all coming. So the weed just lets me pick and choose what I do. That's why I like landscaping too. It's like move around, feel things, make things feng shui, or other terms for it. It's like I want the flow in my life as smooth as possible.
Yeah.
In all aspects.
It's crazy to think that you had to. I mean, 1995. What we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Like you may have been importing heroin. That's how they thought about it. That's why it was so horrible.
First attorney said, "You're looking at 20 years."
Yeah.
And I said, "I'm not working with you."
And now, now they wouldn't even. You wouldn't be
as they
arrested.
shouldn't. That's right.
Wouldn't. They might take the plants. They wouldn't take your gear.
I don't think
exactly.
I don't think it's on.
And
their
they
radar
destroyed
right
the house. They were sending a message.
Yeah. Yeah. It
was gnarly. Like talk about feeling
Yeah.
Wow. My personal space was absolutely.
I've always wanted to ask you about that because
it was horrible.
Like I grew medicinally for dispensaries before 502 came, and when I got sick, my parents.
The fear.
Well, yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. And there was one day where I walked out my front door and there were cops all over my front lawn, and I happened to live across the street from a little mini mart.
Right.
But there were cops in my yard, and I just closed the door and I called my guy, and I was like, he's the guy who taught me, and I was like, this is what's going on. He's like, go downstairs and shut everything off. I'm like, okay, and I did that, and then I go back out and I kind of look, and they're just standing out there, and finally I put my big boy pants on, and I go out there, and I'm like, can I help you? What's going on? Oh, some guy robbed the mini mart over here, and they think he's still upstairs, maybe hiding on the roof or something. I'm like, okay, well, you, well, don't bother letting me know. Right?
So
it's that fear where it's like
the fear was so tangible.
Yeah.
I have to tell you guys, I've known you guys both for a long, long time.
Yeah.
And man, my life is boring. Compared to my friends, Jeff and Regan, I can tell you my life is boring.
The risk aversion
Dan, we have
is
boring
just
lives.
dialed back a little bit.
I'm the most boring out of everybody here.
So a lot of this, I mean, it does come in waves, I think, because I know what it's like to be stagnant and boring and feel like time is so slow. And then on the other hand, I feel very fortunate to have experienced the super slow and super fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And like I said, unsuccessful in general. But that's not true. No, it's not true.
perspective thing.
It is a perspective
You're never
thing.
going to be able to say
That's
that. You're never going to be able to say that in this room,
Right.
and not get a bunch of blowback.
Right.
Because that's
Right.
bullshit.
I don't
No way,
like
man.
saying it around other musicians because I've been fortunate to have releases, which is great regardless of outcome beyond that.
Exactly.
Right.
And your talent is its own. It's
It's
I'm not
5-star.
gonna- I'm not gonna-
It's gold
totally-
standard. It is. It's a gold standard thing. It's
Yeah.
totally cool.
That's it.
Come on.
And you know what? And
There's
that
a
is
reason I've been kicked out of these bands.
short-sighted string players, man. That's all I'm saying.
Well, and that's the thing is they think that they're all important and they're not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bass players though, lording.
Yep.
Seriously, a great bass player makes me feel so good. A great bass player lets me fuck around.
Yeah. Makes your job easier.
Yeah. People go, oh no, the drummer's got to keep it down. Like, not really. It's the
Well,
bass player has to. If
only
the
if
bass
the-
player's
only
holding
if-
it down,
Yeah. The drummer only has to hold it down if the bass player sucks.
yeah.
Sorry.
Exactly.
Sorry.
I wasn't looking at you, Steve. Well, I think that's a great spot to end this
Right.
first time
This
that
first
Regan's on
time,
the
our first
podcast.
segment,
first
our-
of
And
many.
also,
Right.
our first long form.
Yeah, so
Format.
that's so long. So what are you going to do? It's too much.
We have 2 hours and 9 minutes of content right here. We're just
Damn.
gonna
Fired up. Just
fire it up. Yep.
And way less editing than when it's just me and Steve and he's burping and sniffing. So this has been Seattle Today. Thanks for being here, Regan.
You're welcome. It's great to be here.
This has been Seattle Today with Regan Hagar. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you.